Not sure where that voice was coming from. It seemed to be coming from the heavens, didn't it? So welcome everyone to our 26th of August meeting. I'd like to open the meeting officially at 7 p.m. And the first thing we'll, as we normally do, is to acknowledge the traditional custodians. Our meeting is being held on traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. On behalf of Banyule City Council, I wish to acknowledge them as traditional custodians and would like to pay my respects to the Wurundjeri Wurrung elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islands elders joining us tonight. And also our diversity statement. Our community is made up of diverse cultures, beliefs, abilities, bodies, sexualities, ages and genders. We are committed to access, equity, participation and the rights of everyone. Principles that empower, foster harmony and increase the wellbeing of an inclusive community. I'd like to now pass on to our Chief Executive Officer, Alison Beckwith, to read through the formalities. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everyone to this ordinary meeting of Council. As the Mayor indicated, my name is Alison Beckwith and I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at Banyule. Tonight's meeting is being held in person in accordance with the provisions of Council's governance rules and the Local Government Act 2020. The meeting is also being live streamed via Council's website page and Facebook pages. The live stream is not interactive. Any comments or private messages directed to us while the stream is active will not be presented to the Council group or have any bearing on tonight's meeting. Council's request to speak process continues to allow participation of our residents without having to attend the meeting in person. I'll just take you through some rules of participation tonight. Public question time will occur at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. If a member of the public who submitted a question is present in the gallery, they are welcome to read their question as submitted or have their question read out on their behalf by a member of staff. If a person who has submitted a question is not present, the question will not be read out. All public questions and responses will be included in the meeting minutes following tonight's meeting. I'll just remind you all that no statement may be derogatory, defamatory or directed to an individual councillor, member of staff, ratepayer or member of the public. A 2-minute time limit does apply to all requests to speak and the timer will be used and a warning will sound at the 1.5 minute mark, just to remind either residents or officers that may be speaking to sum up. We ask that members of the gallery please check their phones and ensure that it's either switched off or on silent mode to ensure that there's no disruptions. I'd also like to remind everyone in the gallery that we have a zero tolerance for any form of bullying, harassment or violence. Everyone present in the gallery, community members, members of council staff and councillors are expected to respect the individual views of all others, irrespective of their own views held, and respectfully participate in the council meeting. If any members of the public gallery depart the chamber whilst the meeting is still in progress, we ask you kindly to not hold conversations with others until you're outside the building. Noise from the foyer area and downstairs do reverberate back upstairs to this gallery and affect those listening at home. So we thank you in advance for that. I'll now introduce you to those in attendance tonight and I'll start with the councillors. So to my left, I have Councillor Peter Castaldo, Councillor Peter De Morales and Councillor Alison Champion. And to my right, the Mayor, Councillor Tom Malikan, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Rick Garotti, Councillor Alida McKern, Councillor Elizabeth Neely and Councillor Mark G. Pasquale. The council group is also joined by our executive team. So over to the right, we have Mark Giglio, Director of Corporate Services, Darren Bennett, Director of Assets and City Services, and to my left we have Julian Harvey, Acting Director, City Development, and Joseph Tobacco, Director of Community Wellbeing. Tonight the councillors are also supported by members of the governance and IT teams, and we thank you for participating in tonight's meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alison. So apologies, I'd like to note there are no apologies tonight's meeting. However, I would like to note that on the 14th of August, former Hordern Ward Councillor Fiona Mitsonikos advised Banyule Council that she will be resigning from her position due to personal circumstances. Given the upcoming 2024 council election, the position vacated by councillor will remain vacant until the next council is elected. We'd like to thank Fiona for her services, her friendship and her support over the last nearly 4 years, and wish her the best for herself and her family. There are no councillors with leave of absence requests, so we'd go into confirmation of the minutes for the ordinary meeting held of council on the 5th of August. I'd like a councillor to move, please. Move Councillor Neely, seconded Councillor Garotti. Comment? I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. Disclosure of interest. Councillors, as required at other meetings, councillors must declare a conflict of interest at the start of the meeting and leave the meeting when that item is presented to council. Councillors will be required to leave the meeting and return once the item has been resolved. At any point throughout the meeting, if any councillor recognises they have a general or material interest, they can flag that at that point and follow the same procedure. Are there any disclosures of interest in tonight's agenda? There are none. Disclosure from staff officers that are present. I would ask you whether there are conflicts of interest in the end of the items presented tonight. There is one Alison Beckwith, Chief Executive Officer, item 11.2, the outcome of the CEO Employment Matters Committee held on the 12th of August. Alison will declare a material conflict of interest and not be present during the deliberation on the decision on that item. A material conflict of interest is a direct conflict of interest where Alison Beckwith could stand to gain or lose or suffer a loss depending on the outcome of the recommendations from the council tonight. The nature of the material conflict of interest in that matter relates to her employment and performance matters specifically. Due to this conflict of interest, Alison will not be involved in the review and council report presented for a decision tonight. A procedural matter. Council, I'm calling for a procedural motion to reorder the business for council agenda. I'd like to bring forward item 4.1, the Banyule Youth Summit 2024 report card. So can we move that before item 2.1, Finlayson Street? Councillor Garotti, seconded Councillor Neely. All those in favour? That is carried. So we'll move on to item 4.1, and I believe there's a short video to start the...
Hi everyone, my name is Jules and I go to Viewbank College.
Hello, my name is Alana and I go to Catholic Ladies College. We are both members of the Youth Summit representatives and we are here today to present on the Banyule Youth Summit report card.
Last year at the Banyule Youth Summit, myself and 100 other young people came together to talk about community issues that matter to us. There was a wide variety of topics, including mental health, equal opportunities, climate change, youth voice, body image, and more. Together, we came up with a list of recommendations for Council to help address these issues.
Over the past year, the Council has worked alongside young people to deliver all 34 of the recommended outcomes. Last month, on July 30th, we took part in the Youth Summit report card. The Youth Summit report card is an important part of the Youth Summit because it highlights all the outcomes and achievements that have been taken place because of the Youth Summit recommendations.
The report card was attended by young people, community professionals, and council staff. It celebrated the work of young people along with the youth services team and showcased a number of events, workshops, and resources that were created as a result of the Youth Summit. One of the outcomes that Alana and I worked on was to promote gender equity in Banyule. We did this by creating a social media campaign to challenge gender stereotypes and expectations. We asked young people in Banyule for their perspectives on how to challenge gender stereotypes. This was then turned into a series of artworks shared across Banyule Youth's social media pages.
It was a great experience to be able to share our work with the community at the Youth Summit report card. On the day, we met with council staff, community professionals, and other young people to discuss our involvement in delivering the Youth Summit outcomes. If you'd like to learn more about some of the other outcomes that were achieved, feel free to grab a copy of the Youth Summit report card booklet.
We would now like to invite you to watch a video recapping the event. Enjoy!
we would like to really warmly welcome you to the 2024 Youth Summit Report Card.
It's our work with the young people that I think actually sets us up for success across our municipality.
During the Banyule Youth Summit, I sat at the Youth Voice table. The key outcomes that we found from that was to host a networking and professional development day, or student representative council, to provide young people with an opportunity to have their say via a youth survey, and to bring together summit ambassadors to collaborate and continue to advocate both to and as change makers on issues that matter to them.
I worked on The Outcome, a social media campaign that shares young people's cultural stories. We designed interviews to be held with young people to highlight their cultural experiences on Banyule social media and to create greater representation of diverse young people. Engaging in this campaign has not only underscored the importance of amplifying the voices and narratives of young people from diverse backgrounds, but has also highlighted the transformative nature of such representation in fostering inclusivity and understanding in our society.
Organise activities focused on mental health and recreation for Somali Australian youth. Offer individual career advice for Somali Australian youth. Share service information through social media. Host sports tournaments and hold intergenerational events.
Now young people are so much more positive, so much more engaged, so much more tolerant, and so much more accepting of other people.
My highlight of the Youth Summit was that every voice was heard and acted upon.
Being able to see that the issues that I saw were being handled and that nothing was being swept under the rug.
Seeing other people that are like you and seeing other people that care about the issues that you find important and significant in your life.
It's important that the council involves young people because it shows them that it's okay to speak up for yourself.
I think it's important because the youth is our future.
Having our perspective on such key issues is how we will fix so many problems that are occurring in the world right now.
If the issues are obviously related to the youth, I think it'd be great to get their opinion on it because it concerns them more than adults.
Never having an opportunity like this before, this really gave me the platform to, be able to do more things for my community and just, expand on my ability to be a leader within my communities.
Youth Summit!
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to actually put your hands together for our two young presenters tonight. That would be... So there is a motion to turn to that page, but thank you, Alison. There is a motion in the papers. They're actually a speaker. Sorry, is that you, Michelle? Yes. I was about to call you forward, Michelle. So there is one speaker to this item, Michelle Jarvis, who will speak for the recommendation. Welcome, Michelle.
Sorry, I thought you were going straight to the motion, and I thought this was so important that I wanted to speak on it. I am the 2023 Citizen of the Year. And so I'm so pleased about the important issues that were raised at the 2023 Youth Summit and the important recommendations and solutions that were decided upon and acted on so far. Our youth and young people have clearly identified wellbeing and health pressure points like body image, gender equality, healthy masculinity, neurodiversity, disability inclusion, alcohol and other drugs, equal opportunities for people under 18 and above 18, cultural inclusion, mental health and climate change, and LGBTIQA+ issues. On each of these serious social issues, positive action has been undertaken in the way of issue-specific workshops and events, skills empowerment, sensory support spaces, increased diversity of representation. Just an amazing body of work that I would like to thank everyone who participated, including, the people themselves and our wonderful staff. And I'd also like to note that I'm a BCAC representative on the Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan Working Group, and I believe that there is a significant overlap of issues from the Youth Summit that should be part of the Health and Wellbeing Working Group discussions. And incidentally, a Health and Wellbeing Community Forum is being held Monday the 9th September at 10 a.m, Level 4 Greensborough Council offices. So come along and have your say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm looking for a councillor to move the motion as per the papers. Moved Councillor Champion, seconded Councillor McKern. Comment?
Thanks, Mayor. This is one of my favourite events. I have lots of favourite events, and this is one of them. I love that our youth are so engaged in and informed about the topics that they've come up with this year, and some of them show up every year, body image. It hasn't changed since the 1980s, so some things don't change. But then we had a couple of new ones, and one of them that impressed me was masculinity. I love that our youth are articulate and encourage each other to participate, contribute, connect. Youth Fest is on the 15th of September in McLeod Park, so if you can get along to Youth Fest, you can actually see our young people in action. There's one challenge I'm going to give the youth of this particular summit, future summits, and also past summits. Your ideas are fantastic. Live them. Be them for you and for everybody else. And you will be surprised how many people come on board and support you and want to be that as well. So live your values. And thank you very much for another successful Youth Summit.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the video too. That was delightful to watch. I'll be supporting this motion, particularly in relation to continuing our work in partnership with our youth. I resonate with what Councillor Champion has said about the importance of this summit over the years, and in the time I've been a councillor, I've been delighted to be involved and watch it grow. But more so, I've been delighted to see the delivery of the outcomes. And I'm glad to see that climate change is important to you. For some people, it's been slipping down the agenda, particularly with matters such as the cost of living crisis taking priority in our community. So many of the matters that we engage in as a council are addressed and involve adults. This forum really does serve as a successful opportunity to engage our young people more so on your terms and on topics that are important to you. So, as I said, topics such as body image, not something that necessarily the council group would be talking about generally. So, as an important topic for yourselves, I'm glad that it's raised. Mental health, LGBTQIA+, getting this feedback from yourselves in terms of direction for the council is important, and I thank you for it.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Neeling.
Thank you, Mayor. As already been said, this is an excellent event for our young people. I love that our local schools and alternative education settings get involved. And the issues, they are the same. They have been fairly consistent over the past 4 years. With the 34 actions, how they come about, I mean, it's in the document, but through workshops, supporting the groups with resources, providing calm spaces, which young people really do appreciate. Training activities, social media is very important, and that campaign. The fact that parents were also involved in the discussions, newsletters developed, murals painted, like we're really engaging our young people in a variety of ways. And, you know, this is an opportunity for our young people to try new things. These are the sorts of things that you would like your kids to try, not other things, which I'm sure you can think of, because they support their personal growth. They develop their teamwork skills, leadership opportunities, as I've mentioned, resilience when facing new challenges. I also like, in particular, the cultural and emotional awareness. We can do more of that. I know one of the most important things to young people is that their social connections. So expanding their friendships through these networks is also challenging, but important. So well done to all of you. Well done for speaking in a council chamber as well. That can be daunting. And to all the staff and everyone that supported this, it's excellent to see it on paper. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Costello.
I'll just be super quick. I think everything's been said just about, but the beautiful energy that's in the room at the summit and the scorecard, it was like a festival. It was such a good, positive, collaborative environment where everyone was given the space to engage and be honest and show their authentic self. And I congratulate the staff for creating that beautiful environment. We've got a very committed team at Council, and we've got tremendous young people. And I think the more times we give them the opportunity and window into participation in our community, we'll get a lot better outcomes. So congratulations to both of you tonight for coming along and speaking at the summit as well. With over 100 people, it's a daunting experience. So congratulations.
Thank you. Further comment? I'll just say a few things. I'd like to thank the staff as well. Robbie sitting over there in the background as usual, Leonie, but particularly Maddie for organising and bringing this all together. It's been fantastic. And Jules and Alana, you were inspirational on the day, and at the report card that came back, it was a wonderful evening. And as Peter said, it was full of joy. And it's fantastic to have young people like you who are willing to engage with older people like us. And I've said it before, and I always think that the world has changed. Like the world I grew up in is totally different, but the world my children grow up is also different. And to have young people coming along to express how they feel, to express what they think needs to be changed is so wonderful and so helpful to us as councillors, because the world has changed enormously. But, you know, we didn't, when I was growing up, it wasn't called social connection, it was going out partying, as we used to. And what hasn't changed is that desire to have that connection with your fellow people your own age, people experiencing the same things that you are, and that hasn't changed ever. But also wanting to belong to a community and wanting to belong to a society hasn't changed at all. The way it's done has changed, but being human hasn't changed. So it is so rewarding for yourselves and for us that we have you along here to explain to us the way the world works now so we can make better decisions. And that's what this is all about. So really well done, and thanks very much. And also I'd like to point out on the 15th of September at McLeod, the Youth Festival will be on again, and the Youth Festival is another huge exercise done by the staff, and I almost think every year we get a different crowd at the Youth Festival because they all move on. But every year it's always full. It's always a wonderful event. So thanks to our staff, but thank you particularly to Jewel and Maddie for coming along and your participation. And I'd encourage you, as Alison said, to keep the fire burning. You know, this is just the start of your journey into life and career. So I hope it's been a good start for you. But make sure you aim high, because we need people like you to help run this country. So I'll put that. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to the petition. So if you want to duck out, or do you want to listen to the rest of old people stuff? Thanks, Jules. Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Alana. Thanks, Leonie. Robbie's already gone. So we'll move on to item 2.1, a petition for Finlayson Street's objection to proposed concrete footpath between Phillips Crescent and Credlin Court. Rosanna, we have 4 speakers. Mary O'Day. Oh, Robin wants to go first. So we have Robin Ball. Welcome, Robin. You have 2 minutes, thanks.
Thank you for hearing our petition. So this is for the concrete footpath proposed along Finlayson Street between Phillips Crescent and Cremon Court. So we, the signed residents, some of who are here this evening, thank you for coming, strongly oppose the concrete path because we feel it imposes an adverse impact on the original intention of this pocket of heritage character of Alliston Estate. So the response that we received from council saying the heritage overlay stops the property boundary and doesn't extend beyond the property and the curbside, we feel it's a bit divisive, and we want to work with council that we can work together to find a really positive solution. So I've done a lot of door knocking. Usually there's been 2 of us going around the neighbourhood, chatting with neighbours, and it really has been overwhelmingly supportive. So there's 18 residences along from Phillips Avenue to Cremon Court, 13 of which have signed the petition. Of the remaining 5 residents, there's one home that is vacant, but the other 4 people I've spoken to as well, even though they'd be happy with a concrete path, they would also be happy with an alternative if we could find one. So when the path further up Finlayson Street was installed a few years ago, I remember being contacted to ask what I thought, and I just commented, well, if the people further up want a path, that's fine. I didn't want to stand in the way of that. But this section of Finlayson Street, we feel, is quite different. There's about 5 different architectural designs of this Alliston Estate that was developed in the 60s and 70s. And I just really feel that the context is everything here. These incremental changes, like a concrete path, really can chip away at the integrity of this unique piece of urban history. So attached in the petition shows mental, physical health and economic benefits, the importance of nature-positive infrastructure, and of having surfaces for water absorption and reducing urban heat. So I'd just like to finish with a personal experience from a local resident who has a vision impairment, who lives on the east side, which is the other side of Finlayson Street, who said, who has signed the petition, and said that having a footpath on one side of the street is sufficient. I would just use the side of any street that had a footpath, and I understand completely the desire to keep the precinct more natural with not footpaths as per its natural heritage purpose. So thank you for listening to me, and I'm going to now pass on to Mary, if that's okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mary.
I'm just going to get myself organised. My name's Mary O'Day, and thanks for the opportunity of being able to address you here this evening and to listening to what I have to say. Noel and I have lived at 29 Finlayson Street, Rosanna, since 1996. I'm a resident who will be directly impacted by the proposal to build a concrete footpath. I am also a disciple of Alice Stones, as you can see, who keeps this old stuff around. Without reiterating what has already been said, I would like to make the following points. 1, I fully endorse and thank Robin, our first speaker, for her comments and insight. Pedestrian access and safety is emphasised in the documentation, and the first two dot points listed on page 8 under discussion in the council papers. The existing pathway is referred to as well-worn goat tracks, indicates significant foot traffic along this stretch. Based on my own observations, much of the wear and tear is not a result of significant foot traffic, but by water runoff causing soil erosion during heavy rains. This can make it appear that there is more pedestrian use than there is, and therefore requires, I believe, further investigation. In our backyard, adjacent to the area for the proposed footpath, we have 4 very old, mature sugar gums. We care for them and maintain these trees, and we are concerned the proposed works will not only disturb their root system, causing distress to the trees, but a concrete footpath will reduce the amount of water these trees can access. I've got a lot of points, but I'm going to keep to the time. We care for the nature strip. Reference is made to the pedestrian safety risk with no formal pathway. I contend there may be greater risk if there is a formal pathway. Why? Because our sugar gums drop branches which I pick up and place in our planted garden area so people can see them. This is to give pedestrians the opportunity to assess whether walking under these sugar gums is safe. A formal pathway invites people to walk there and implies it is safe to do so, in my opinion. There are very good reasons why this area has remained unpaved since the Elliston Estate was built in 1969. Past councils have made decisions that have kept the area as it is. There was no intention for it to have a formal pathway, and there is no missing link. It is a part of the Elliston's design. All I'm asking you is to follow the previous councillor's footsteps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Our next speaker is Emily Marston. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. I'm one of the owners who is adjacent to the proposed concrete footpath. I've lived in that property since May 2021, and I support the petition that Robin has tabled this evening. My concerns are threefold. First, a number of the residents, including myself, believe that a concrete footpath will negatively impact the prized heritage character of the Elliston Estate. And that relates to the principle of integration between built form elements and the vegetated landscape. So the lack of formal services, majority of the services including electricity connection is underground to preserve the connection and integration of built form with the environment. There are significant landscaping opportunities within the estate, including the significant gum trees that Mary has referred to. There's a consistency in the mid-century building form, and the character on the western side of Finlayson Street exhibits a different character to that of the east, and that's reflected in the planning scheme controls policy, how it deals, and the application of the heritage overlay. I would consider that, as Mary has stated, the missing link is an intentional missing link, and that inconsistency between the two sides of the streets is entirely appropriate and reflective of the different character outcomes sought. The fact that there's a line on a plan to denote the boundary of the heritage overlay doesn't reflect the context, which is broader than just where that line is drawn. I personally was attracted to the Elliston Estate for the character that I've described. It's a very special example of subdivision layout and modernist design. My second and third concerns relate, well, the second concern relates to the impacts on existing services and native trees, which are a particular character outcome sought here. And my final concern relates to the safety associated with the proposed pram crossing at the juncture of four streets, where Finlayson is at an incline. Finlayson Street is at an incline. One of the questions that I've put in my submission to council has been whether there's been an assessment of the safety impacts of having a pram crossing at that juncture. So thank you for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thank you, Emily. Our next speaker is James Spencer. James.
Good evening. I'd like to agree with all the previous speakers. I submitted a 3-page submission. Obviously, for 2 minutes, it's going to be almost impossible, so I just wanted to raise a couple of issues. What I think it's $150,000 seems a lot of money for a concrete footpath, the money could be better spent on improving access to the Rosanna Parkland. That money could go to establishing lights along the pathways within the area to allow people to travel to and from the shops, to and from the railway station, late at night, early in the morning. Most people in our section of the street don't want the footpath. Also, I wanted to raise the issue of equity. If you're going to put footpaths in our section, and that may be a fait accompli, what about the side streets and the crescents? People walk all day along that street. There are no footpaths on those side streets. If you're going to put a footpath in our area, you should, because of equity and fairness, put footpaths along all the other sections to increase the safety of the people who are moving from the area into the parkland and back and forth. There's been some comments in regards to the environmental factors associated with the footpaths. Climate change is going to increase the average temperatures. Having concrete in those areas are going to increase thermal issues. I just would like to say that we need a compromise, an alternative, not a concrete path. I support people accessing the street to enjoy the habitat, the environment of the locality. Having some type of compact dirt, gravel structure would, I think, be a good compromise.
Okay, thank you, James. Well said.
Thank you.
So there is a report. I'm looking for a councillor to move a motion. Move, councillor.
Before we move, I'd like to ask a question of the relevant officer in regards to the consultation process that had the submissions in by the 19th of August. Do we have a number of fors and against from that consultation? Could I please have an answer?
Thank you. Practising. Through you, Mr Mayor, we have had zero support so far from the community on the consultation feedback.
And a follow-up question. Given the level of support for the funding of this footpath, what is the process that is likely to occur?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we, as the recommendation notes, the intention is to meet with the lead petitioner on this matter and discuss exploring a viable alternative that solves both the local residents' concerns and council's concerns about the safety of the general public as well. So we will explore those options with them.
Thank you. I look for council to move a motion as per the papers. Councillor
Mayor, if I may ask a question.
Yes,
just to the appropriate officer, Mayor. Just finding out some more information with regards to how this has come up with regards to proposing the footpath. Like, is it part of the budget, 2023-24 budget, 24-25 budget, or going forward? Thank you.
Are you in a position to answer that, gentlemen?
I will attempt to, Mr Mayor. The works were identified in the existing budget of council, I think in response to the walkability of the area, the surveys and the plans that we actually have to improve walkability for pedestrians, obviously, and the community. We've gone out to consult to find out what the community thinks about that, and clearly we're faced with significant feedback that we need to talk again with our community.
And just on top of that, to complete that, there's been two sections of Finlayson Street already concreted out, one from Thompson's Drive down to Phillips Crescent. So the previous sections have been concreted in the last 2 to 3 years. Councillor Carrotti.
So just a follow-up question, sorry, Mayor, if I may. So this has been uncovered, I suppose, because of the 24-25 budget process and the budget as it is going forward. If this is the case, how then will a new council be privileged with hearing from the speakers, community consultation, etc.? How will that be managed? Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The feedback that we've actually received to date we can feed that back to the council and hopefully we'll be able to identify a reasonable solution for both council's needs and the community's needs in this location. So a future council will hear probably a briefing of what the response is to this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Councillor Garotti, you had a question? No. Councillor McKern, you had a question?
Through you, Mayor, I have a question for the Acting Director of City Development. As we all know, I'm quite a supporter of heritage, and I'd like to know through you, Mayor, how does concreting a path in the Elliston estate potentially compromise the modern heritage quality of the area, in your opinion?
I am not an expert on the heritage of the Elliston estate and I don't think I'm in a position tonight to form an opinion on that, on what the impact may well be. I've heard from the petitioners and I think we'll explore that with them and take into consideration their concerns.
Should we, through you, Mayor, another question for the Acting Director, should we indeed receive this petition this evening for the officer's consideration, I see that the emphasis is on traffic, transport and safety, which is understandable, but I would like it noted that the heritage element is also reported and brought back to us if that's possible.
I believe we can do that and bring the results of the communication with the community back to a future council, I would suspect now.
Any further questions? It was moved by Councillor Costello. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor McKern, comment?
Yeah, look, I'd like to thank all those that participated this evening, but all the extensive work that you've also provided to councillors prior to tonight, thank you. It is a precious part of Banyule. Heritage is one of the special things we have in Banyule. Last council meeting we heard about the A.V. Jennings estate on Malcolm Road. Tonight we're hearing about the Elliston estate. Both of them are precious. Both of them have unique qualities that we need to retain. And that doesn't stop at property boundaries. That's the whole context. And I think one of the statements made tonight was part of the design, not the missing link. We can look at things so differently depending on what view we're looking through. And I certainly am looking at through the heritage perspective, and that certainly isn't a missing link. So thank you for providing this feedback to us. And I would like to just mention that we will be consulting with you to move this forward. And congratulations on all the work you have done to make sure that we retain and protect special parts of Banyule.
Thank you for the comment. Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you too to all our speakers tonight. You've obviously done your homework, and those of you who've moved into the area have moved in with intent, understanding what you were moving into. So that's to be commended. I noticed that one of the elements of the motion is to organise a meeting between the Mayor and Ward Councillor. I actually put it out to our residents in the area that there might be other councillors interested in doing a tour. So if you would like to get in touch with us, I can tell you that the last organised tour I did of Elliston Estate was as a student, a landscape architecture student of John Patrick's. And John took a few of us through that estate. That was a while ago now. And surely I've been through the estate, but not looking at it through the eyes of residents who live there. And I, for one, would love that opportunity, and no doubt some of my fellow councillors would too. So if you could reach out to us, I don't really need to repeat what my fellow councillor Peter Castaldo has said with regards to the importance of the heritage. We do have an obligation, of course, to provide safe access, so we need to be thinking of that aspect as well, and hopefully we can provide a solution to both protecting our heritage and providing safe access through Finlayson Street. So thank you again.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor De Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, and awaiting your comments as well on this item. I think the process I'm looking at here with regards to a petition before us this evening. So if we look at, I think this is an appropriate use of a petition where we have gone through a budget process where there would have been a line item and an allocation to do a footpath in a certain area. The community has the ability to go through that massive document and probably look at things that should be or shouldn't be done, but I myself, going through every single line item, I don't know what the repercussions would be of okaying something or not okaying something. So it takes an opportunity like this to really highlight whether there's an issue in the community going forward. So firstly, to consult through the budget process is the first step of the process, I suppose, where things can be picked up, whether pros and cons. And secondly, in this situation, very civilly petition, the community gets behind it, and then a report will come back. So I'm going to support this tonight for a report to come back and then to go through the process, so further community consultation. I think this is an example where once the budget is set, I don't think a council should go forward and just steamroll all the projects through. They should be continually listening to the community at every step, and if there are any major issues, well then it should come back to us and we should be able to have another bite at the cherry. So yeah, very happy to accept this petition. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? I will make a few comments. It's my ward. I've walked the area too. I'd encourage other councillors to do the same. I was rewarded with a toasted sandwich and a cup of tea, which was lovely. It is a very beautiful part of Rosanna, and the petitioners I know quite well and are very community-minded, generous, wonderful people in the area who have done a lot for lots of people in that area, so you really need to consider this petition very seriously. But then I also think about the time when I've been on the Disability and Inclusive Working Committee and some of the issues that people raise through those committees, and you need to take that on board as well. So, and for me, right from the start, this has been incredibly difficult because I can understand the need and why people want to keep their beautiful. I know the little bookstore that's there, the seat that people put there for the bus stop so people could sit down while they waited for the bus. Like, it is a very community-minded and engaged part of Banyule. So, and it's difficult to get that balance right because I can understand why they like their beautiful part of the world, but I also understand that there is a need to provide access to the train stations. And I take it on when I spoke to James, who talked about most people actually go down the side streets and then walk through the park because it's quicker to get to the station that way. So there are certainly lots of things to take into consideration, and looking forward to the meeting, and also take on what James said when I spoke to him, that there must be an alternative. There must be a way we can balance the need for access with preserving the area. So looking forward to that meeting and getting the right outcome. So thanks for coming in tonight and bringing this to our attention. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you, Robin and Mary. We'll move on to item 2.2, petition urging improvements to the maintenance of the Bell Street Mall, West Heidelberg. There are no speakers. There is a report. I'll ask the council to move a motion. Councillor De Morelos, seconder. Councillor Grotti. Just give a couple of minutes for noisy petitioners to get out. See you, Robin. Bye, Mary. Bye, Noel. Sorry, Councillor De Morelos, you moved and second. Did you have a comment? Any councillor would like to comment? Councillor Grotti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's been a long time since I've been out to the Mall, but certainly, you know, my recollections of it were that it is an area in need of some greater attention. So this petition doesn't surprise me, and I certainly look forward, or I think the council certainly look forward to this report coming back in response, and I thank the petitioners for moving it along. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for the comment. It is a vicinity I visit regularly and a very much loved and talked about area, and Councillor Gordy's right. It could need, or it could do with an uplift, but it is certainly well used, and it's a very vibrant, active little area, and so many people love the Mall, and you go down there and you see the same people day in, day out. It's such a community meeting place, such a vibrant little area that people love being in, and it's changing to some degree. But certainly there's been a massive increasing development in the area, which is bringing more and more people in there. And there's lots of different interest groups that participate in there, and Shop 48's there as well. And yeah, it was interesting. The Age had an article about the Bell Street Mall not that long ago. So I think it's good to receive the petition, good that council's looking at it, but yeah, I'm very happy to see this as well, because it is an area that we do need to make sure we maintain to its highest level. So I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to item 3.1, the Banyule response to Plan for Victoria and the draft housing strategy. Pippa Griffiths is speaking against the recommendations. Welcome, Pippa.
Thank you. I am a bit conflicted about this, as there is much in this submission that is really good, but I'm speaking against the recommendation because it could still be improved. This is a missed opportunity to really stress to the government they must build more public housing, not just social housing. Victoria has Australia's lowest rate of public housing at 2.8%. Most other states are well above the national average of 4.1. Big difference there. More than 58,000 on the waiting list. The number on the list and of the homeless grows each year, and the rebuild of the high-rise towers will make this worse. We really must do better. A society is judged by how we treat our most vulnerable. Council should also be advocating for an increase from 10% of social housing within a development. Closer to 30% would be more in line with international standards and would help to reduce the waiting list and the pressure on the private market. Another missed opportunity is to make council support for the draft targets conditional on the plan including real tangible commitments from the government to the support services and infrastructure necessary for higher density living, including green open spaces with trees. This is the number one thing the public wants for the future, ahead of affordable housing at number 3. There are several references in this submission about using council land for housing. The state government is responsible for housing. Council's responsibility is to residents to provide the services, community facilities and infrastructure, including more parks and open spaces, so important to the people. More people living in higher density surroundings will need more of these services and infrastructure. Council land must be used for these things. And finally, I look forward to the community being consulted on the draft housing targets in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pippa, and thanks for that detailed email you sent us over the weekend as well. It's very insightful and very correct, I thought. Our next speaker is Alicia Curry. I haven't seen Alicia. Is Alicia here? Wendy Pallister. Wendy's here. We'll move on. Wendy, would you like to speak? You're up. And Joy Stanford. Is Joy? Welcome, Joy. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to say that I pretty much agree with Pippa. I think it's a really good response, but there's things that definitely could be done. It says in there that Banyule questions the rationale of the target of 800,000 new homes over a decade. But when you really put this into perspective, currently 146,000 Victorian households' housing needs are unmet, and by 2041 that would increase to 223,000. This is just social homes, which is public and community housing. It's not even talking about affordable or market homes. Are we really aiming high enough with our targets? Council's current stance, with Pippa as well, with a minimum of 10% affordable housing for large developments above 10 stories is not enough. We should be aiming for much more, and it really shouldn't be for buildings just over 10 stories. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows, you look around Banyule and you don't see many 10+ story buildings. Even some of the higher ones on Bell Street still only hit 9 stories. So council needs to be realistic and actually set ambitious goals that actually address the housing crisis, or can petition the government to address the housing crisis and not just tick a box. The reference to short-term accommodation for young people and queer people is important, but it's just a band-aid on a gashing wound, and we need long-term sustainable solutions that go beyond just a quick fix. We've talked a lot about young people at the start of this council meeting, and as a 22-year-old young person who wants to stay living in Banyule, help us out and advocate and ask more from the government, because the more people that ask and keep pressuring the government, the more they might start listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joy. Thanks for coming in. It's good to hear good to hear your views. And I haven't seen Alicia, have we? Oh, there is a motion, and I believe there's a slight some recommendation being. Alita, would you mind reading out the alternative, please?
For Victoria, plan for Victoria submission in accordance with attachment 1 with the following changes. After point 4 on page 6, that A, Council is concerned that the definition of affordable housing is not well understood by the community, development industry and various agencies including Housing Victoria. Council urges the state to clarify with those parties through the Plan Victoria document that the definition of affordable housing as provided for in the Planning and Environment Act is determined from time to time under Section 3AB of the Planning and Environment Act at a maximum housing cost, rent or mortgage, of 30% of household income for fit-for-purpose accommodation. And B, that Council sees the opportunity to increase the supply of affordable housing by exploring options to increase the proportion of affordable homes in a development commensurate with the overall scale of that development. Council remains supportive of the proposed minimum 10% target for affordable housing. However, for larger scale development, there may be an opportunity to substantially increase this proportion, which Council requests should be explored, including engagement with the greater community. And that too sends a copy of our submission to local, state and federal members of Parliament, the Victorian and Federal Ministers for Housing, Victorian Minister for Planning and Victorian Minister for Transport, Infrastructure, highlighting the opportunities for social and affordable housing as part of a Watsonia Station redevelopment rather.
Thank you. Move Councillor McKern. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Costello, comment?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to the speakers who did speak tonight. It has been an interesting exercise, the preparation of this submission, and by the way, the state government is calling for submissions from all sectors of the community. Submissions close the 30th of August. So for those of you who have prepared submissions and you've eloquently expressed some of them this evening, I would encourage you to also submit them directly to the state via the Engage Victoria website. Yes, there are targets that we are being asked to meet, and draft targets have been released. 800,000 new homes in the next 10 years, and a total of 2.24 million new homes by 2051. Council has been very clear in both this submission and in its housing strategy that these targets are capacity targets. They are not delivery targets, and Council cannot be expected to deliver this number of homes. It is not the remit of local government to deliver on housing. It is the remit of local government to set the framework. Developers and marketers actually are responsible for whether or not that delivery will occur. In reading the submission that we have prepared, I want you to know that I agree with the concerns raised by the speakers, particularly Pippa and Jai. I did try to make a few changes tonight. The key elements of the submission that concerned me were community engagement and lack thereof by the state government with our general community. We need statewide debate about these targets. We also need statewide debate about what sort of population Victoria and Greater Melbourne should be. The increase of grey and green infrastructure to support increased dwellings. If we're going to be serious about maintaining livability, and the state government does refer to livability of our cities constantly in Plan Melbourne and will no doubt do so for its plan for Victoria, how will Banyule continue to be livable with an additional 47,000 homes if we do not increase our green and grey infrastructure and services? Good design and affordable housing are also some of my concerns. The term affordable housing is so mishmashed that it's hard to understand what it means. We refer to the planning and environment definition, rebuke the Housing Victoria definition, which is too vague, and I'm absolutely befuddled by Dr. Kate Shaw's comment in The Age last week, stating that Victoria's affordable housing essentially is defined as where rental price is 90% of the market rate. It's not what we believe is affordable housing. Tonight I will support the report before us with the changes, but I do take on board your concerns, and I encourage you as members of our Banyule community to also put your submission in direct to the state government. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Costello.
First, I'd like to thank the officers for responding with this report. It highlights a lot of areas that need attention. That's the whole range of services that need to go when you build more dwellings for people. But I think our two speakers this evening, Pippa, firstly, thank you, and for the significant submission you sent to us early in the week, and to Jai as well. You draw our attention to a couple of very, very important areas. That we're walking towards a perfect storm. We've got increasing population, and the building of apartments and everything else is decreasing at the moment. We're about to see that on one of the reports we got later tonight. And what we're not doing is building a lot of public housing at all different levels of affordability and support to our community. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. And thank you to Councillor McKern. Your amendments are really important in this and draw our attention back to some of the most important things that we need to signal to our state government. When we want to create a well-being environment for all our residents into the future, we've got to make sure that we have the right housing, the mix of housing we need to support all in our community. So if the state government want us to deliver, they've got to make sure that their attention is on the absolutely important areas as well. Yeah, please do get your submissions in. every opportunity you can and send a message to the state government. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Garotti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So really appreciate feedback that we've heard tonight from the speakers and also feedback that we received via email over the weekend from the community. One of the things that we have highlighted in the submission is that we think it's important, and we've flagged this to the state government, that we do want to open up a conversation with the community around the whole basis of the targets. So what we've done as a council is we've heard state government policy, we've responded in terms of being able to put a housing strategy that delivers adequate capacity to respond to the strategic goal of state government. That's us being responsible as a council. Strategies or directions set and councils respond and follow. We've done that. But I think, and it was being acknowledged in the last council meeting and by many in the community, that we need to have the conversation around the whole basis of why we've been asked to do this in the first place as a council. And what do we want Banyule to look like, to feel like 10, 15, 20 years from now? And his 86% growth in population is anticipated in those targets over the next 20 to 25 years. How does the community feel about that? So what I'm really asking tonight through my comments is to invite a conversation with the community about that. And then together, let's get back to our local, state and federal government colleagues on what we think and maybe shift that. Because 86% growth in population for Banyule, that's a radically different city to what we enjoy and live today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Neeling.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has identified opportunities for social and affordable housing, like the Watsonia train station redevelopment, and with this, the support services that are really important. I agree with all the speakers tonight that to support these developments, we need, transport infrastructure needs, we need improvements, we need to know that we can't have one without the other. Stormwater infrastructure, public open space, an increase in tree canopy, not only must be included, but must be up to standard. A coordinated effort with the state government is essential. We need to work together to provide these support services and the infrastructure, which is my main concern. More homes in locations with public transport is essential in Banyule. The need for social connection is important. It was mentioned in a previous item how public spaces interface with private property. So informal social connection, which is much needed based on data and also mentioned in reports to come later. So for me, housing targets, it can't be just a number in isolation. This is about Banyule being a thriving and livable community that's safe, that it's accessible, that is sustainable, and council will continue to advocate for this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments? I'll just make a few comments. It's interesting, some of the speakers talked about affordable housing when affordable rental is one thing, and there was a report recently that said less than 1% of the houses for rent in Melbourne are affordable for someone on New Start allowance, which is amazing when you think about people on New Start basically can't afford to rent anywhere in Melbourne. And we talk about the Watsonia station site. Well, interesting, Minister King, the federal infrastructure minister, talked about the government potential of investing in the suburban rail loop, that they need to make sure that the housing will be built around the stations in the suburban rail loop, and they won't contribute unless they are ensured that that will happen. Yet in Watsonia, we have a already built station, we have a huge chunk of public land next door to it, in an activity centre. If the part of affordable and social housing is not included in that redevelopment, then that will be a massive opportunity and will be against so many of state and federal government policies that I think this council will be appalled if that's the situation that occurs there. And it's not the lack of land that's available for housing. I look at the corner site down here, and in my time on council, I've seen 3 different planning applications come in for the corner site. None of them have been built. We look at the Belbardia estate, a huge piece of public land. It's about 7 or 8 years ago they pulled that down and it hasn't been rebuilt. I know there's a proposal to build 104 there now, but surely there is adequate land in Banyule to meet these targets if we get it right. And as Peter also talked about, there's a planning report showing that the number of approvals is declining, particularly for higher density developments in Banyule, and that's a real worry when we talk about the housing crisis we're facing and how that will continue. But I always think it's not mutually exclusive. We can allow for a higher density development, we can protect our environment, and we can also make sure we don't wreck the neighbourhood character in our suburbs as well. So we can achieve that if we get the planning right. This submission I think is excellent. It's not perfect, as Pippa has pointed out, but I think it's an excellent submission. And I think, as Councillor Grory said, we do need to start that conversation, because it's people that vote for us aren't different to the people that vote for state, and they're not different to the people that vote for federal. So why don't we have that conversation about where we're going as a society and as a community? And I'm quite happy to have that debate. So I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to item 3.2, the awarding of the contract for Watsonia Town Square Stage 2. We have 3 speakers. Brian Grace from Good Governance Banyule addressed the council in person, and Brian is speaking for the contract. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I'd like to thank the Mayor, councillors and the Executive for allowing me to speak here tonight. I know it is a privilege, and I say thank you. Can I just say, before I start to talk, I'd like to thank Alison's office, and I'd also like to thank the governance team, because I wasn't going to speak here tonight because there was a glitch in the system, and thanks to Linda and her ability to change things, and it allowed me to speak here tonight. And she went beyond her customer service role to be able to let me speak here tonight.
Thanks, Brian. Time's up.
Just before, look, I don't have much to say, but I just want to say that this article, this awarding of contract, should have been done 18 months ago. 18 months ago. We've had a schmozzle at the Watsonia shops. 2 businesses have gone broke because people couldn't park in the street and service those businesses. Tony the fruiterer went broke. The butcher went broke because people couldn't park. Now what we've got is something that resembles Guantanamo Bay. We've got temporary fencing all up and down Watsonia Road. We've got car parks not allowing people to park their car and shop. The council is doing against what the people want it to do, and it wants to be able to park and shop locally. Now this contract should have been at least discussed 18 months ago, maybe even 12 months ago. But build the town square. Don't put temporary fencing all up and down and stop people from sitting in a town square. Build the town square, then talk about the car parking. Or build the car parking and then build the town square. But what we've got there is an absolute schmozzle, and it is a joke, an absolute joke amongst the local community, that this town square is a schmozzle. It's taking far too long, far too long. And what should have taken 10 months is going on to 2.5 years. Stop the schmozzle, build the town square and get it over and done with. And I'm very, very happy to take any questions. So I'm hoping now, as I go to sit down, there won't be any snide remarks where I can't reply.
No, there won't, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our second speaker is Melissa Murphy-Webster. Thanks, John.
So, I'm not against, I agree again, with good governance, that it's taken too long. It's my area. It is bombs hit it. I no longer have a fruit person in my area that I go to, and as a plant-based person, that's really important to me. But in regards to this particular agenda item, the 2024 budget had $5 million including the toilet block. However, stage 2 is quoted at just under 5.4, including GST, according to the agenda. It would be very helpful if Banyule could provide a report that showed the timeline for each stage, including the source and use of the funds, pluses and minuses as it progresses. I found it very difficult to track back the project myself, being able to see the true cost of each stage, the timeline and the overlap of each expenditure. And it would be most beneficial for residents to understand this and any other major projects. Thank you. Now, can I bank that time? I'm going to need it for 3.5.
Right. Thank you, Melissa. And there is an audio message from Jeremy Richards, who is the president, I believe, of the Watsonia Traders Association. Jeremy is speaking for the thing.
What's that? Watsonia Traders Association represents 70 or so small businesses in the Watsonia Shopping Centre. We can't wait for the new town square to be complete and believe it will be a fantastic benefit to our traders and whole community. Significant construction in the middle of town, including road closures and diversions, as well as a significant loss of car parking for many months, has contributed to a very noticeable reduction in trading conditions for many nearby businesses. It's actually been horrible at times. We note that Evergreen Civil has been in charge of Stage 1 of the Town Square works, and we are pleased to hear they've been successful to complete Stage 2. We think they've done a great job for the vast majority of the time. Our main and ongoing request to Council and to Evergreen Civil is to at all times take into account how they can finish the job faster with as little interruption to traders and the community's convenience and amenity as possible. Communication from Banyule Council to the Traders Association has improved dramatically over the duration of the project thus far. We've had countless discussions about the works with Council representatives, in particular Nick, throughout the past year. We trust and are very confident these will continue until this time next year, when we predict the Paris end of Watsonia will actually be the very heart of our shopping centre.
Thank you, Jeremy. Very good. There is a councillor report. I'd look for a councillor to move. Councillor, with the slight amendment, Councillor Grotti.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm struggling more and more now to read off the screen. But award contract number 1377-2024 to Evergreen Civil Proprietary Limited, noting that due to an administrative error, the correct figure should read $4,897,438.97, excluding GST, and not $4,874,209.81, excluding GST, as published in the officer report. Authorise the CEO or delegate to sign the contract and any other associated documents. Authorise the CEO or delegate to approve variations to the contract within the adopted budget as may be reasonably required. Undertakes a car parking survey of the Watsonia shopping area in early 2025 to determine the current supply and demand of car parking and adherence to the original car parking as part of the Watsonia Town Square project, and receives a report back to Council on any recommendations for changes required to car parking numbers, including the consideration of sealing of the temporary car park located in the centre median of Morwell Avenue between Greenwood Drive and Kenmar Street. So moved, Mayor.
Moved, Councillor Grotti, seconded Councillor De Pasquale. Comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I'll just make a brief note of those amendments. Obviously, the admin error was noted by officers, just in regards to points 4 and 5, and I do thank our Chief Executive for providing that wording. It's just reflecting the fact that once this second stage is done and the town square's built, it'll be important to undertake a study of car parking needs and demands in the area. I would expect, and I hope after the works, that there'll be an uplift in activity and an increase in demand for people to access and engage in the centre. There's a temporary car park that's being constructed at the moment for the construction workers. It's further west of Watsonia Road. That might be an opportunity to convert to permanent, and that could be an ideal car park potentially for staff and workers and the owners of the Watsonia Strip to use, so that they free up car parking spaces closer to the shopping strip. Anyway, the future council will get a report back on that, and I hope that that's a valuable piece of information for a future council. Fully acknowledge the two speakers here tonight. It's been challenging and it has been tough on some of the businesses. We have had a closure of the fruit shop and the butcher. We're very disappointing. I've also been in quite regular contact with the coffee shop then near the Watsonia RSL, Finnies. They've been doing it very tough. Hopefully they've been able to hang in there. I hope to check in on them soon. At least now all the major civil works are done in terms of the road realignment and the car parking. So now council can go in and essentially in this stage 2 complete the town square, the grassing, the amenities, the services that will go in. The disruption to traders and to residents should be significantly less than what we've experienced over the last 6 to 9 months. But I acknowledge that it's been a challenge, and I certainly acknowledge what the speakers have said tonight and what Jeremy has said as well in his feedback, to get this thing done as quickly as possible. And we're doing everything that we can at a councillor level to do that. I request, and with Councillor Di Pasquale, a weekly update from our Chief Executive. The minute I'm alerted of an issue, I'm on the phone to Alison. I want to know immediately if something's going off track. We can't manage and deliver projects as councillors, it's not our job, but we can hear from the community, we can hear from traders, and we can alert our officers as quickly as possible to try and rectify. We've done the best that we can, and I'm very excited that hopefully we'll be able to move forward with this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll just add a few comments to that. Thank you, Councillor Garotti. We have been getting weekly updates with regards to the works that have been happening. We also have been part of meetings where traders have met with the construction personnel, and traders have been having input into possible changes that would have helped or would help them through this time, very difficult time. One of the examples are, for example, instead of doing line markings during a weekday where they had originally planned them, a discussion was had with the contractors, and they were able to move it to a weekend where it was, low volume. Shoppers weren't going to be around. So little things like that hopefully have made a difference. Look, it has been very difficult with regards to the traders down there. We knew this planning it and going into it from the start. There were conversations that we had, and I remember those conversations, Councillor Garotti and the larger councillor group, whether this project was, we were actually thinking whether this project was going to go ahead. At one stage, we were really, because a couple of other projects throughout the municipality had gone quite astray, and there was a lot of stress and anguish with regards to traders and the organisation. We did not want anything like that happening here at Watsonia. I'm happy to say it hasn't. It's actually worked quite to plan, the way that it was expected to go. It's just been very, very difficult. But what it's providing is it's providing an area in Watsonia now where Watsonia was created basically when the Greensboro bypass was originally built, and the roundabouts were put in underneath the power lines as a sort of a fix to the area. Now we are returning to the community open space rather than roadway. And now with regards to the North East Link and the M80 being built, this would be a piece of the puzzle to return open space and livability to that area. So in the future, come summer, people will be going down to the chicken shop, getting some chicken and chips and sitting out in the park and having it with their family. Meeting dad or mum from the train after work, going there to dinner at Watsonia, I can see the community members may be choosing as an option. So it's a very difficult situation down there. We've been doing the best we possibly can, but it's not finished yet. We still have a lot of work to do. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the extra time too.
All right. Any further comment? I'll just say a few things. It has been a huge project, and you're right, it is difficult. I remember when we went through this process at Heidelberg, it was incredibly difficult, but similar in Weir Street and Montmorency, Alison will recall the disruption that was caused down there, but I think the end result was well worth that effort, and the community has embraced that. The new streetscape down there, I know at Rosanna there was certainly some issues, and we knew those issues were coming, but we made the decision to go ahead. And I know losing Tony, who I knew very, very well, was a loss. And I know also that the RSL have suffered extremely badly through this whole process as well. But I think the end result will be worth it. Once it's complete, people will realise the benefit, and it is, every streetscape upgrade we've done has been incredibly disruptive, but I think you need to go through that disruption to get the end result. And I think once this is complete, people will see the benefit. It will open up the library, it will open up access there, and this also makes it incredibly important that they get the access across the North East Link right, and also improve the access across the railway line, because so many people access the shops from the east side without using their car. And if we can make that even easier through that whole infrastructure spend there, that will certainly improve. And also, as we talked earlier, imagine what would it be like if there was an influx of people living in that car park, the activity that would add to the centre, the vibrancy around the library and the whole shopping complex. I would note the coffee shops seem quite happy down there because all the workers get rewarded for and get vouchers and things to have coffee there. So the coffee shop's incredibly busy down there. That will be only temporary, but I think as difficult it is, and I understand fully understand Brian's concerns, and I think we need to wait to the end and make sure, because the end will be worth it, and I think it will benefit Watsonia in the long run. So I'll support this tonight, and I'd also like to thank Nick McKay, who has been Council's officer down there, working incredibly hard. Every time you go down there, Nick's there supervising and making sure that the contractors do everything that they said they would do, but also looking for improvements, as Councillor Di Pasquale talked about. So I'd like to thank him for his efforts, and because he has been under the pump and he has done a great job. So I'll put that, all those in favour. That is carried. We'll move on to the construction of the shared user path at Power Road, Greensboro. There are no speakers. I'll look for a councillor to move a motion. Move Councillor Champion, seconded Councillor Di Pasquale. Comment?
I will just say a little bit. Thanks, Mayor. Look, this is really, points 1, 2 and 3 really clearly outline, as well as the report outlines that this is a contract between Council and LXRP. It is a project that is being paid for by the state government, and then as it is constructed and used by community and opened up, it becomes a council asset that is maintained by council. So this is especially for all my Sherborne residents who keep asking me, Alison, what's happening on Para Road? This is the answer. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This path here will link Greensboro to Montmorency Station, and then hopefully we can get an ongoing path to Eltham from there, which will then link, will be really good with regards to walking, cycling, commuting. And then if we can have as designed, the M80 and also the North East Link paths as planned and as designed, it'd be very big infrastructure completion of the links in this area. So yeah, this is a really big piece of the puzzle for the north part of our municipality. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comments? I'll pass a few comments on again. This is something we've been I think the report underlies underestimates the amount of effort and time that's gone into the planning for this project and the involvement from many councillors and officers as well. And I'm really looking forward to this being completed. And as Councillor De Pasquale said, it will open up a whole new section of Banyule and links in so well to many of our strategies, the Plenty River Trail, the Greensborough Station, the Montmorency Station. So it is an incredibly important piece of infrastructure, and there's still some elements we need to work through with this, but we're really looking forward to getting the right outcome. So I'd like to thank the officers for that. I know they've put a tremendous amount of effort into getting this right. So I'll put that, all those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to item 3.4, Financial Management Report, preliminary performance of the period ending 30th of June 2024. We have two speakers. Kavan Hill. Kavan's here, I know. Welcome, Kavan. Kavan is speaking against the recommendations.
Write me a good report and I can speak for it. Thank you, Mayor. Look, rather than start where I usually start, which is a forensic analysis of the data, anybody can do that, so I'm told. I simply focus on what I think is a weakness in forecasting. And I'm concerned that maybe the methodology or the people using the methodology have taken a too simplistic or perhaps not conservative enough approach to the forecasts. When you read through this document, it's full of very interesting data, which when analysed shows one thing: the forecasts are not right. So I'm not here to bash, I'm here to help, but I would say that probably the Chief Executive would be well aware of this and probably is agitating for some improvements, and I exhort the council officers and the councillors to have a look at this. Now, I'm not sure whether any councillors are involved in the forecasting, and if they're not, perhaps some of them might educate themselves about the various forecasting methods. But that's not for here, but if anyone wants any coaching or training, I'm available. So that's basically all I want to say. I think the forecasting is the weakness. Thank you.
Thank you, Kip. Councillor Gorotti has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just picking up on the observation from our speaker, just through you to relevant officer, but just getting some feedback on the query raised around the forecasting methodology and where the opportunities for improvement are and what officer reflections are on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mark, are you in a position to comment? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Council go through a rigorous process of forecasting. Council officers work with the business on a line-by-line basis every month to look at projections on both income and expenditure. It's been a focus from the senior management for a long, long time, but sometimes it's difficult to predict, patterns of expenditure and income. And I think this time round, and there's an accurate reflection from the speaker, particularly around our income from grants, something that we perhaps hadn't contemplated around the timing of those grants. So it's an accounting treatment of grants. So a lot of the case we have received those grants, but have to account for them when the requisite capital expenditure is consumed. However, I think we sort of fell down a little bit with the forecasting this time. So generally we're pretty accurate on our forecasting. We spent a lot of effort, a lot of time on it. But yeah, just this time around, I think the income side of things, particularly around capital grants, but also a big change from the Victoria Grants Commission this time round, where the federal government usually pays out the following financial year's Grants Commission allocation early, and that's around about the end of June, and has done so for quite a long time now, probably maybe even, I'd suggest maybe even 10 to 15 years of paying it out early, and we're expecting that, no change. And this year they decided not to pay out those grants early, and usually it's at the end of maybe the last week of June we get notified of that. So obviously we couldn't have forecasted that, being not brought forward as one example of where we couldn't predict that. But certainly on the other community capital grants is one area that we need to get better at forecasting.
Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Grotti? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to raise it before the meeting, but that's fine. That's what these meetings are for. Just the report references 43.44 million in expenditure on capital against the budget of 68 million. And that works out to a capital works delivery, in my calculation, of 64%. Yet the councillors and possibly the community are being quoted a much higher figure around capital works delivery. So I'm just trying to understand how that works and seeking officer feedback.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. The capital percentage rate in the report is the number of projects that have been completed. The carry forward amount is largely the multi-year projects, of which there's probably made up of that amount, of that 25 million, there's probably 8 projects that make up the bulk of that amount from a financial perspective.
So just as a follow-up, when we quote our capital works delivery performance, is that based on number of projects rather than the value of the projects?
Yes, that's correct.
That could be something to look at in the future. I know I've made a comment there.
Thank you. Further questions? We did have a second speaker, Alicia Curry, but I haven't seen Alicia as yet. I don't. So look, we have there is a slight, there is a motion in the paper. We'll look for someone to move Councillor Grotti, seconded Councillor Neely. Comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'll make a couple of comments. Firstly, it is our year-end report, and I think it'd be, nice to highlight some of the positives. So it is a $16.9 million surplus that the council has achieved, a 21.3 million cash operating surplus. So that's positive, means we're generating substantially more cash from operations than spending, and that can go into capital works. Debt is down to less than 10% of revenues, and interest paid on debt is less than 1.5 million. Over 10 years ago, our debt as a council was pushing 40% of revenues, and the council was spending $3.5 million per year on interest. So that's $2 million a year more now every year that the council's able to put back into services and infrastructure rather than spending on interest. Cash is being well managed, and well done, Mark, to you and your team, with an average return of 5.25%. So these are good things. The days of debts and deficits for this council are well and truly behind us. I hope that that's able to be sustained into the future by a future council. We've touched on, or our speakers touched on, the issues around forecasting, and I was actually very reassured to hear our director being able to own up to that as an area for opportunity for improvement. That's positive, because I think we do things well as a council, but being able to take on feedback constructively and say, yes, there's a learning there and we can do better, that's good. That's the Banyule way. And I'm really pleased to see that out of our CEO and senior leadership. Thank you. I do think there are some areas that we need to focus on as a council from these figures. Our agency spend for the year was 3.4 million. When we go to external agency, that's at a premium of about 25%. So if you do the math on that, if we were to employ our own, we could be saving $500,000, $750,000 a year. We flagged that as an area of focus with the CEO because we think we can get further savings for the council. The other area was that our revenue earned from user fees and charges, or our commercial and retail revenue, non-rate revenue, $2.2 million lower than budgeted. Now, there's some good reasons for that outlined in the report, but again, I think we can do better. So it's a good set of figures, but I think the future council has got some good areas to focus in on, you know, as we just look to have the council sustainable into the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Neeling.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Councillor Grotty covered a lot of what I was going to say, but hopefully I say it in a slightly different way. The report highlights and explains major variances at an organisational level. Of course, there are areas for improvement. It shows that council ended up with a smaller surplus than planned, and council needs to generate more cash from operations, and that's been something that I've been honing in on as an audit and risk member. Delays in capital delivery continue. So economic factors like inflation and fluctuating currency exchange rates impact costs of materials, affecting council's overall construction expenses. Supply constraints and increased production costs are passed on to councils. Councils are not immune to what's happening. There's been an increase in demand, as we know, for construction materials and services across the state, and particularly right through Banyule. When we look at, we are the host to the biggest tunnel boring machine, I believe, that the country's ever seen. It's a very transparent and detailed report. And as Director Gilio mentioned, the unfavourable variance in operating grants was something to prepare for next year. The reduced income from planning permit registrations, local laws, pets, municipal registrations, Councillor Grotty mentioned that overall. Also the waste recovery centres closure. So there's lots of things that a council has to be across, that though overall the balance sheet remains strong. So I look forward to the September audit and risk meeting and to continue to see progress. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comments? I'll just say, is this a perfect report? Well, no. But you think about the issues we've had to face. We've talked about the cost issues, we've talked about inflation, we've talked about supply chain issues. There have been some enormous hits to this council's budget, and then other things still recovering from COVID has cost this council as well. Building has also been another issue which is costing us. But then I look at what we have achieved. I'm particularly proud of our hardship policy, which we put up, one of the best in the state, and we increased it by 10% in the last budget. And then I look at some of we had the youth festival and presentation we had earlier. I think this council has engaged particularly well with our community, and I think that we have achieved some enormous things. And we had the social housing discussion before. This council has delivered on a social housing enterprise in Belfield, which was a tremendous achievement, I think, from not many councils have achieved that. We look at our inclusive employment program, which comes up a bit later, which has been a massive achievement and makes us proud to be councillors. So we can look at a budget and say, no, we're not perfect in our budget, but then I can look at what we have achieved and what we have as the services we have provided through some very difficult times, and the things we have done to support this community over a long period of time have been tremendous. And I'm more focused on making sure people are looked after, make sure that everyone has an opportunity in Banyule, and make sure that we have a council that is community-based and community-minded, and people are supported. So if our budget's not perfect, well, I'll accept that. But what I won't accept is not supporting a community and not working as hard as we can to make sure we have the services and the opportunities for everyone in Banyule. So I'm very proud of this council and the budget and the outcomes that we have achieved. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to the endorsement of the annual procurement plan 2024-2023. We have one speaker, Melissa Murphy-Webster. You have 2 minutes as per the rules.
Okay, so Banyul's purchased 16 electric vehicles since August 2023. The projected budget increased by 100% on 2024's 4.9 million to 9.8 million in 2025, and then another 20% has been allocated in 2026 to 11.9 million. I have 10 questions. How many fleet vehicles are there altogether? Are the vehicles purchased outright or under lease? Were the vehicles purchased as additional vehicles or replacements? What is expected period of use before they are upgraded, replaced or end of life? If end of life, where and how will they be stripped and junked? What are the make and models? Who were they allocated to and how are they being factored into salaries, if at all? If they were replacements, what happened to the redundant vehicles? Are staff encouraged to use nearby trains, buses, terminals or bike ride to nearby appointments, as I know Mayor Malikan and former Mayor Castaldo have? How did the purchase pass the modern day slavery policy, human rights charter and sustainable procurement outcomes? In June, the Chamber learned about the human rights issues pertaining to the finite minerals and components used in EVs. Has a reassessment factoring in these liens been scheduled? Further to the human rights issues, there are considerations concerning regarding to actual sustainability of these vehicles. Although fully electric vehicles do not produce tailpipe emissions, their parts and logistics have carbon footprint and therefore the cradle to grave must be factored in. As an EV hybrid owner myself, I've done extensive research on the topic. Does Banyul use the CREAT model when doing assessments? Residents need to know the council is being thorough, honest and transparent in all areas, whether it be the environment, budget, transport, health and any other areas. I skipped some bits to make it fit. And here's my 10 questions.
Would you mind sending us those questions and we'll provide more detail?
There you go.
I got most of them, but I didn't.
I had to read them really fast.
Councillor Garotti, Melissa, Councillor Garotti has a question. Oh, sorry, of the officers, sorry. Yes, Councillor Garotti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and I think it indicated for Melissa to be able to submit those questions to the CEO. I think they're good questions, so I'm certainly keen to see the answers myself. I just had a question around the policy exemptions for public tendering. There were a total of 11 electric vehicles exempted from tendering, and there's a pipeline over coming years to be doing more EVs. Why haven't we tendered for electric vehicles? Why did they get exemptions? So through the appropriate officer for response, Mayor.
Darren, would you be able to respond on? Oh, sorry, Mark.
That's okay, just through you, Mayor. They still went through a competitive process, so they weren't tendered out, but they were the process of request for quote from a number of motor vehicle manufacturers. So they did go through a competitive process, but not through the tendering process, which is slightly different and more rigorous process, but still went through the rigour of quotations, etc., from those car dealerships.
Thank you. Further comment? Further question, sorry? I look for a councillor to move a motion. Move Councillor Garotti, seconded Councillor Di Pasquale. Comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Happy to be moving this report. It's a relatively new report in terms of the history of council. I think we've only been receiving this over the last 2 or 3 years. So I think that this is a very good strategic and governance process now that we've embedded into this council. Very transparent in terms of contracts that the CEO's done, tenders that is under her delegation of 1 million. So that's full transparency back to council and full transparency back to the community. And also having the table in there as well of all the exemptions to tender. That's very rigorous probity in terms of having a public report out there that documents those things. So hopefully that gives some confidence back to our community stakeholders, that from a probity perspective, things are done quite well here at Banyule. The other thing that I like about this plan is that it gives information to the councillors, but because it's also public as well, to the market around what the council's looking to do from procurement, and hopefully that enables participants in the market to get ready for opportunities, and hopefully opens up to the council to getting more bids and more interest from the market than what we otherwise would get. So ultimately, we hope with this plan it helps to drive down costs by encouraging more competitive behaviour through tendering. Our speaker raised some very good questions. I thought I tended to ask probing questions, but I really do look forward to a response coming back to us all, in fact, on some of those, and I thank her for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Debbie Squalling.
Thank you, Mayor. You just add a couple of points. So this is a new requirement. So it's a legislative requirement. I think Government Act 2020. Now, council has to make this public knowledge with regards to procurement over $100,000. And what also the public needs to understand too is we as councillors delegate some of that responsibility to the CEO, anything from $500,000 to $1 million. Now, that wasn't the case beforehand. So why that's important is because residents are expecting councillors to probably be voting on and debating every single item. But when it gets to higher dollars with regards to the $1 million mark, we have now delegated some of that to the CEO, which is a big responsibility, because we, in effect, appoint the CEO, and then the CEO appoints directors, managers, and the staff. So in a well-run council, it should run very well and optimise the decision-making and free up some of the councillor encumbrances of making decisions, which there are many decisions to make. So they're delegated to the CEO. But what it does, though, if there is a council that is not quite functioning well, sometimes we could see how the CEO could sabotage some decisions, maybe, or councillors or some councillors could be left out of the decision-making process. So this is a fully upfront look for the public to understand what decisions are being made, what's being delegated. If there are any problems with that delegation, we can always bring it back and make another decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to item 3.6, the Audit and Risk Committee recruitment of the new independent representative.
I had a question.
There are no speakers. Are there questions? Councillor Neely?
Just a question. I just had a question about the skills matrix. Wanted to know what that was comprised of, please.
Mark, would you be able to respond to that question? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly through you, Mayor. A skills matrix or skills and experience matrix is commonly used to look at a group, or for example, in this example, a committee, to look at the broad range of skills that are required to discharge their functions and roles and responsibilities. We use a skills matrix to determine the level of skill and experience on that particular committee, because we don't want to have it sort of lopsided over to one particular skill. So in this case, for the audit committee, we look at sort of sector knowledge as far as one particular experience, and also the other one was technical skills. So, for example, have they got financial management skills? Do they know about risk management? Do they know about project management skills, critical thinking, etc.? So we just want to make sure that we've got a broad range of skills on that audit committee rather than just focused or weighted to one area. And when we're doing the recruitment or running the recruitment process for independent representatives, we make sure when we're doing the assessment or shortlisting of those candidates they cover off on those areas that we think are short as far as the skills on the committee at the time.
Thank you. Further comment? Further questions, sorry? No. We'll look for someone to move. Councillor Grotti, seconded Councillor Neely. Comment?
Just a couple of brief comments. Two very high-quality individuals that'll be joining the Audit and Risk Committee. One of them was the previous sector lead for local government from the Victorian Auditor General. So that's good. That is really good for Banyule. That'll add a lot of rigour to the committee. The other observation is that I think the committee was inundated with really high-quality applicants. So I think that's a vote of confidence, hopefully, from the sector that good quality people, professionals want to be involved with Banyule and want to be involved in the Audit Committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Neely.
Yep, thank you. Mayor, I'd just like to mention Stuart, who was a very good chair on the Audit and Risk Committee, and thank him for his contribution. Now that I've got a better understanding of the skills matrix, I think it was a very rigorous process, and having a range of skill on the committee is really important, as it is for any organisation as a whole. And looking at the two members, they've both got relevant experience, risk management, local government, financial planning, and what's really pertinent to councils is fraud and cyber knowledge. So that's really excellent. Thank you, Councillor Grotti, for volunteering to be on the panel. And I might leave it there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Castaldo.
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge Stuart Kells' contribution over the years. When I had the opportunity to be on the Audit and Risk Committee, he was always a contributor, as they need to be, our community members that are formed on that committee. He's done a lot of work, and I'm just grateful that I wasn't one of those people trying to get onto this committee, because the CVs of those people that were picked are exceptional, and I think that will be very helpful for us to have confidence that we're really picking up every little bit and pieces and challenging the officers' presentations and making sure that we are a council that continues to excel in all that we do if we have that level of scrutiny continuously looking at everything we do. So I look forward to meeting the two new members.
Thank you. We're pleased you're not applying to be on this committee as well, Peter. Councillor Di Pasquale.
Mayor, more of a question rather than a comment with regards to the recommendation.
Yes.
The term is for 3 years with an option to extend for a further 3 years. What's the process of that extension?
Mark, would you be able to respond? Thanks.
At the moment, it's just a council review of their contribution and performance over that 3-year period. That is the maximum tenure of an audit committee, independent audit committee member, is the 2 3-year terms. But we do an assessment each year on the performance of the audit committee and individual members, but it'll be a feedback from councillors and other independent members about their performance over that year, and they will be reappointed based on their performance. We're just about to update the audit committee charter to change that slightly about them requesting to be extended rather than just council doing a performance review and then reappointing automatically for the 3 years. So yeah, it's a pretty normal process, but we're just about to change that slightly.
Thank you. Further questions?
So will that be delegated to CEO or will come back to the full council?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, the process is that it comes back through council to be reappointed. Only the council can appoint an audit committee member.
I'm not sure whether it is of the mover and the second or whether we should state there that it comes back to the council. Is there any need for that? I'm happy either way.
It's a requirement that comes back to council, isn't it?
Oh, I don't believe that there's a need for amendment. I mean, it's a standard process that this comes back to council. Only council can appoint members to any advisory committee.
Any further questions? Look for someone to move a motion. Move Councillor Garotti, seconded Councillor... Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. I didn't write that down. I'd just like to make a few comments too. Actually, the last meeting I went to, Lisa, I've forgotten her surname, who was the latest person to come on, was exceptional, and her knowledge of cyber security was really impressive. So it's obviously the skill matrix is working, because that's obviously an area we identified we needed. But I think Professor Kells has been outstanding as well. He's a very impressive person. To have him on our audit committee, I think, is a real high achievement. And given the report we've received tonight, I think we're looking forward to the audit committee continuing just be highly functional, and certainly keeping officers on their toes, as I notice they do. So I'll be supporting this tonight as well. So I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. We move on to record of council meetings. There are no speakers. Look for council to move. Move Councillor Garotti, seconded Councillor Champion. Comment? No comment? No comment? I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to our inclusive and connected community, or the Youth Summit. We've already considered that. Item 4.2, the Inclusive Annual Year 2 Achievement Report. There are no speakers. There is a report. Look for a council to move a motion. Move Councillor Neely. Seconded Councillor Champion. Comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council takes an intersectional approach to inclusion, and the overall objectives are to be an inclusive workplace, deliver equitable services, places and spaces, and recognising and strengthening our diverse community. So there's been some really important key projects, including partnerships with clubs, universities, social connection groups, re-established internal council processes, toolkits and user-friendly supports like on websites or online, and a long list of really good events that involve the community. So this report also acknowledges what's happening within the community to the best of our knowledge and based on data. And data is also, you know, subject to people actually reporting things or sharing things. The Victorian Public Health Survey found that 6.4% of Banyule adult residents have experienced racism this year, and council responds and finds ways to celebrate, you know, cultural diversity, you know, in a proactive way. Social isolation and loneliness is also proving to be a global health threat. The survey found that 23.9% of Banyule residents report experiencing loneliness, and a report which I look forward to is coming back to council on this, I believe in June next year. Small businesses struggling with viability issues, council's providing practical support in partnership with employment service providers. So there's a lot of work to be done in this space, and council's approach is really nuanced. It has a nuanced understanding of barriers that our community faces, which is the amazing benefit of local government. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor?
Thanks, Mayor. Just really simply, this is the human angle of Banyule. Everyone in our community wants to be valued. Most want to be included and respected and acknowledged. And those who are on our committees contribute their time with their expertise to their committees as well as to council. So I would like to thank all of those who contribute to our committees, to our officers who contribute a significant amount of their time with these residents and their expertise to create a supportive and inclusive Banyule. And without our community, our whole Banyule community, feeling valued and included, we don't have a happy Banyule, and nothing else follows. Nothing. No footpaths, no roads, no cybersecurity, nothing. Nothing else follows unless our community feels included and welcome and valued. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comments? Councillor Castaldo.
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge all the work that goes into trying to make sure that anyone that's experiencing barriers to inclusion, we're trying to break down those barriers. And the other thing is visibility. No one wants to feel invisible, and that's another area that we've done a lot of work on through important days of acknowledgement, recognition and celebration of people across our community. But moving forward, there's a couple of important areas. Respect is one of them, and social isolation. And so while council may be having a new collection of committees, the work that our committees do will continue on with officers in those two new focus areas, because the last thing we want is for people to feel isolated, because that reduces well-being for our community. And respect. When we respect people in our community, they have the energy to participate more and feel like they can contribute. And I think we'll be a much better community, healthier community with greater well-being when we continue to focus on these areas. And yeah, it is about managing the finances in the background. That's administration. The real work is these things, the quality of life for our community. So I will continue to support all the work our officers do in these areas, and I'd like to celebrate the contributions that so many make to improve these things for our community.
Thank you. I'll make a few comments as the chair of this committee. And I'd like to thank Sharon Pizzey and Joe Wilson for their support and leadership and organisational skills to run these committees. And sometimes council can get criticised for certain things we do. And I always think, how can you ever criticise someone for being too inclusive or too willing to listen to other people and understand their issues and the difficulties they face in their day-to-day life? And I think this council, with the tremendous help of our staff and led so well by Joseph Tobacco, I think this council has made huge steps towards being a more inclusive community. And you can never say you've achieved the ultimate and you have been fully inclusive, but I think we have worked very hard to make sure that we have improved. And I know as a person I certainly have improved and understand the issues that many people in our community do face and how to respond and how to make sure that every person in Banyule is supported, respected and included. So I'm very, very proud of this report and would like to thank Joe and Sharon for their tremendous support and help over the 2 years. So I'll put that, all those in favour. That is carried. We'll move on to 4.2, the Advisory and Population Committee reports from May till June 2024. We have one speaker, Michelle. Welcome again.
Hello. Thank you. Let me make this clear. I'm speaking as an individual who is on the Banyule Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee and not as a representative speaking on behalf of the committee. I am concerned that some of the recommendations discussed at BCAC have not made it to the list of council recommendations to be voted on. I'm requesting that in future council also notes the following recommendations from BCAC. That the State of the Environment report include more robust data collection regarding biodiversity and water quality. That that we adopt the urban, that we report on the urban forest strategy indicators, and adopt and report on the canopy cover trends, or on the canopy cover targets in all suburbs, across footpaths and roads, and the canopy cover across open space, shared path network and surrounding playgrounds, and report progress against those targets. Also, the Council considers a education program, alternatives to poisoning of rats and mice, as there has been a notable increase in owl and tawny frogmouth deaths across Banyule, and that's been an issue particularly in Rosanna Parklands. Additionally, there are key strategies that are under development: the biodiversity strategy, the corporate emissions reduction plan, and the new climate change adaptation framework. These are set to be released for public consultation March and May 25, and BCAC recommended that the public exhibition for these strategies be staggered to not overwhelm the community. Additionally, it would have been valuable for BCAC members to have been forwarded documentation on Victoria's new standardised 4-stream household waste and recycling system, item 5.1 of this agenda, which is next, for comment via email, as this program fell outside of the BCAC meeting schedule for commenting on. And it is concerning that BCAC was overlooked in Council's response, and I'd like to see Council make better use of the skills, knowledge and passion of BCAC members. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I would note that the report into the Fawn BIM system is based on our Towards Zero Waste strategy, which went to go through BCAC as well. So I'll look from Council. Are there any questions? Councillor McKern.
I thank the Speaker, but as Chair of BCAC, I would like to ask to the relevant Director, there was a recommendation made by BCAC in relation to including sustainability, sustainability focused on environment as one of the supporting report details for all Council reports coming up to Council. Now, that recommendation does seem to have got lost along the way, and I'd just like to ask if one of our directors could comment on that.
Joseph, are you able to comment on that? Thanks.
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor McKern. It appears that the attachment to the report tonight on page 9 of the Banyule Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee refers to there being a further attachment for both the BCAC PowerPoint slides and also the State of Environment Report, Outcomes and Recommendations. It appears that that's the document that our Speaker tonight is perhaps referring to. We'll make sure that the next report which comes to Council incorporates those recommendations so that they can be adopted by Council.
Okay. I'm a little bit confused through you, Mayor. Can we just clarify that that will include the recommendation that was put up by members to indeed include environmental sustainability as one of the reporting details?
Through you, Mayor, in regards to on Council reports?
Correct.
Yes, yep, and that is something that we're working on towards that will be part of the new report format with the new Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Look for someone to move a motion. Move Councillor Neely. Seconded Councillor Garotti. Did you want to move something?
No, I was pointing for you that Alison wanted to say.
Oh, sorry. Seconded Alison Champion.
Right.
Councillor Comment, Councillor Neely.
I'll just speak briefly. Just thank you to the committee volunteers who address our local needs and put their time in to do so. These committees, you know, foster civic engagement and advocacy, and the unique skills and knowledge of others in the community really make a difference. And a highlight for me in this report is the Marrigill strategy, the self-determination strategy, which was outlined. So some really amazing work can be done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Champion? Oh, Councillor McKern.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you to our speaker for raising the comments that she has. She's been an invaluable member of our BCAC group, which has quite a bit of expertise on it, as she has pointed out. I must admit, though, as chair of that advisory committee, some of the recommendations raised, such as an education program for the poisoning of rats and mice, I have to admit this is the first I've heard of it, and it may be something that was discussed at a meeting, but there's a difference between discussion at our advisory committee meetings and recommendations being put up to council for adoption. That needs to be made clear. So I think if there are recommendations that members of our advisory committees would like to see put up to council for consideration and adoption, they probably need to be made clearer as recommendations, because a lot of discussion happens before a recommendation is indeed voted on at an advisory committee to go up before council. So I do welcome the suggestions that were put up, and if they weren't addressed in this term of council by BCAC, bearing in mind we do have one more meeting of BCAC before the end of this term of council, then I'm hoping that they will go up for consideration in the new term of council, because I think they were all very good suggestions. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Castaldo.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone on the committees. This will be the last committee report that comes to council in this term, and it's a tremendous source of information that informs our councillor group, also makes significant impact on strategies in this council. I have the privilege of being on the Arts and Culture, Inclusive Banyule, Age-Friendly, Multicultural and Marrigill committees at the moment, and I made a commitment to be on every single committee on this council in this last term, and it's been a very informative and very important opportunity to get across the diverse subject matter that comes to this council. And the committed community participation in every single committee I've got to commend. And if you haven't been on a committee yet, I would encourage everyone in the audience or those online to join a committee, get across some of the subject matter and provide your valuable feedback to these committees, because they really do make an impact.
Councillor Gordy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to comment, but I did just want to pick up on one small point, that there have been members of the community who have attempted to join various committees and have not been successful. So I think we've just got to be careful about saying, please join, please get involved, as though there's a full power and opportunity for the community to do that. Because I am aware of a number who have had a crack at joining and they've been knocked back. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comments? I'll just say it's an absolute pleasure to be on these committees. You learn so much. You get to talk to the really committed, community-minded people. You learn a lot, and one of the pleasures of being a councillor is to be engaged and on these committees. Once again, I think the officers do a tremendous job here. I haven't been on BCAC for a while because I got kicked off it. But I used to actually quite enjoy being on that committee. So, yeah, it is. Now we've got 9 councillors. It's a bit more difficult, and there's a bit more competition to be on these different committees. councillors can attend if they like, but it's certainly good that we do have that bit of competition between councillors to be on these committees, because the more you put into this, being this role on council, the more you actually get out of it. And I think, and the more you do talk to the members of these committees, the more you understand, and the greater the learning you have through your council journey. So, and if you look at this report, the achievements have been significant, as Councillor Neely talked about. Some of the policy decisions we've made based on recommendations from some of these committees have been quite innovative and quite leading. So I will support this tonight. I'll put that in the name of Councillor Neely. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to item 5.0, 5.1, annual response to the Victorian new standardisation of the four-stream household waste and recycling system. We have one speaker, Kavan Hill. Welcome again, Kavan. Speaking rubbish again.
Look, I'm just sort of going to highlight a couple of things here. In the key issues, it raises the question of how much, or not how much, but what's going to need to be done. 53,000 bins, but doesn't mention a cost. Extra employees, it doesn't mention the cost, and vehicles doesn't mention the cost of purchase, repairs and maintenance and depreciation. So a bit more information would be very helpful. But look, there's no estimate of cost of a fourth bin plus collection. Let's say it's about $3 million for Banyule and an estimate of $240 million for all councils in Victoria. Who does a separate glass bin benefit? Visy Recycling, who own and manage the glass beneficiation plant. The agreement for a fourth bin is some minor contamination to point to paper and cardboard due to glass fragments, again benefiting Visy Recycling. The community is being asked to be an unpaid quality control agency. One could be really cynical about how this came about, given a major consultancy recently awarded to the ex-Premier's company by Visy. We recommend that any decision on a fourth bin for glass be deferred to the new council. It's time for energy from waste collection to be revisited. I know that's popular with the Mayor and Councillor Castaldo. Thank you.
It's not our decision. It's mandated that we go to the fourth bin system by 2027. So, and and your questions about costs, we do have costs, and we have been, council has been presented with those costs, and you have significantly underestimated the costs. Question, Councillor McKern?
Could the relevant director actually comment on those costs, given that the questions have been raised by the Speaker?
That would be good. If Darren was, could you comment on those costs?
Yes, thanks for the question, Councillor McKern, and through you, Mayor. The estimated cost that we're projecting at the moment is about $1 million for 2 additional side loaders, and about $4 million for the purchase of the procurement of the bins and rollout of those bins.
And the yearly operating costs once the purchases have been made?
We haven't got that detail on the yearly operating costs, but that would be likely to come, you know, as I said, we're still working on that, but it's, you know, that won't be required until the 26-27 financial year.
Councillor McKern.
Thanks for, through you, Mayor, identifying the costs, Director Bennett. I believe too that with regards to curbside collection of glass, Council also stands to receive revenue from that collection. Can you comment on the potential revenue we might receive from collecting glass curbside, as opposed to the container deposit scheme where the depositor actually collects the refund?
And through you, Mayor, Councillor McKern, I believe what you're referring to is the rebate that we get for any container deposit scheme containers that are that are coming through the recycle bin? No, you're shaking your head there.
With all due respect, through you, Mayor, perhaps I haven't made myself clear. We're looking at two types of glass recycling here, is my understanding. One through the container deposit scheme, both mandated, of course, by the state government, and the other being curbside, a future recycling system, the purple lidded bin. In terms of the glass collected in the curbside glass recycle bins, who receives the revenue from the return and recycling of that glass?
Through you, Mayor, I'm not aware of any refund that council will get through the collection of the curbside glass bin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor De Pasquale.
Mayor, we see in the report that the department, the time allowed for council's response to this was quite short and inappropriate for community consultation. Is there any reason why that is the case? Can an officer shed some light on that, please?
I think you'd have to ask the state government why they put those deadlines on it, but they were the deadlines we were given. Simple as that.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, yes, they were the deadlines that we were given, and we have no control over those deadlines.
Further questions?
Yeah.
Councillor McKern.
I've raised this query previously through you, Mayor, with Director Bennett about the possible consequences of not being compliant with the Circular Economy Act and perhaps not meeting that deadline. Just wondering if you've been able to gain any information on that since we last communicated.
Through you, Mayor, I'll need to take that one on notice in terms of what the consequences are for council about not complying with the Act.
Thank you. Look for I think there is a slight amendment to this motion. I thought we were going to write to our state members' request and providing. Oh, that's right, we have to. Sorry, my mistake. So there is a motion as per the papers. Councillor McKern, do you want to move that? Seconded. Councillor Castaldo, comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Council is essentially being asked to receive a retrospective response to the state government on the 4-stream household waste and recycling system. As you would all know, we currently have a 3-stream waste system with the FOGO bin, which is food and garden organics recycling, the green lidded one, the red lidded one, which is general waste, and our recyclables. And we are being obligated to increase that to the purple lidded bin, which you would have seen other councils have already established. We have been a bit concerned about meeting that deadline of 2027, I might add, because we did have a discussion upon the introduction of the container deposit scheme as to whether it might be required to make that investment on the part of council. Should the container deposit scheme serve successful enough for glass recycling, that be promoted rather than having to invest more of council monies to promote another bin. But it would appear that might be denied us given this obligation to meet a 2027 deadline instead of a 2030 deadline, which is why I'm interested to know what the consequences are of not meeting that deadline. Nevertheless, a comment I would like to make is around the FOGO system. That has been a good news story for Banyule. No major changes required for us, but you'll recall when we went to introduce this system, nearly 4 years ago now, that we went for the highest level of recycling of food and garden wastes by going for weekly recycling of food and garden wastes and fortnightly recycling of landfill waste, whereas other councils went or maintained the weekly recycling of landfill waste. And the other thing we did was not allow the FOGO caddies to be lined with plastic bags, recyclable plastic bags, or any form of lining other than a slip of paper at the bottom of the bin. It looks like that was very well worth it, even though it meant possibly a little bit of hardship for us residents at the time, because now, of course, the state government is obligating everyone to go plasticless in their FOGO caddies, and it's probably going to be a bit harder for those residents who've been used to lining their caddies. So that's a bit of a win for us, because there's no major changes and no habits that have to be undone. But other than that, given that we're receiving a report, I just want to say thank you to our officers and also to our councillors for promoting that high-level FOGO at the time. That's been a very big success story for this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Castaldo.
Waste has been a subject I've been involved in heavily, and like our speaker this evening, Mr Kevan Hill, I have some concerns around the decision to enforce a 4-bin rollout and a glass bin. When we went to the state government to have a standardised process for waste across the state, we didn't anticipate they'd make a decision and we'd just be forced to implement it without serious business case information that gave me and other members on the Metro Waste Forum good reason for why this glass should be rolled out. Tonight we're hearing a $5 million capital upfront cost to implement it, with additional operational costs year on year. We don't know the business case. I think Councillor McKern was working towards what the opportunity was, which should mean increased value in our recyclables and value in the glass separated. Both of those should be a revenue positive to our council. What we don't know is the business case and impact to our local council. And I don't think our state government has ever provided us with good grounds and good reason for why we've been forced to have this 4th glass bin and the appropriate costs borne by the relevant providers in the system. We've got market capture with Visy across the waste recycling industry. I'm very uncomfortable with this, and we never get any information back when we do challenge some of these. And the underlying assumptions and a whole range of things, I've got deep concerns in our waste industry, because this is a massive cost to our residents, and I don't want to think that we're not doing the most efficient process to deliver both the best financial and environmental outcomes. So we're forced to write this report. We're not doing it because this is the best way to do it.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Groding.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Earlier in the year when we had the draft budget, 1.2 million in costs worked out to about an average of $30 to $40 per household. So if this is going to cost the council $5 to $6 million, work that out, what that does to the rates, $150 to $200 for our residents. So I think that, we, new council, we need to sit down, like we've written to the members of parliament. I think we need to sit down, and we think we need them to understand as well what the cost impact is on the community and residents, because it's sizable. And as colleagues have articulated, the benefits are marginal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? I'll add a few comments as well. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that we'd be forced to go to the 4th bin system if the CDS container deposit scheme is successful. The only thing will be in there will be wine bottles, and why wine bottles weren't included in the container deposit scheme is ridiculous. So there'll be wine bottles and glass jars. So we'll be sending trucks out once a month to pick up wine bottles and glass jars when they could have easily been included in the container deposit scheme. And if the as we said, a $5 million upfront cost, and 2 trucks driving around every day, picking up virtually nothing that will be worthless when there's... And I'm not sure what we can do as a council because we're mandated to do it, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we are forced to go to this 4th bin system. When, as we know, times are tough, councils are struggling, residents are struggling. We can't afford to waste money on a system that's not required and will be bad for the environment. We'll be sending trucks around to pick up pieces of glass that aren't worth anything. So, yeah, I want to put... And the other thing that and the papers talk about is the opt-out of FOGO. Some councils went in for an opt-in processing of FOGO, some went for you could opt out. This council went opt-in and it's been incredibly successful. And now the state government is saying we must provide an option to opt out of FOGO. It's logical as well. So, good we've highlighted this. Disappointing our state members haven't come back to us. I missed that bit in the correspondence, sorry. Yeah, so waste is such an important part of what council does. So we need to get it right, but we have virtually no control over this or no ability to affect the outcome. So that's very disappointing. So I put that in the name of Councillor McKern. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to 6.1, the Planning and Building Activity Report, January to June 2024. There is one speaker, Pippa, but oh no, you're still there, Pippa. You're speaking against this. Thank you.
Thank you again. I'm speaking against this recommendation as I read this report with interest and it left me wanting much more information. From the summary, I learned there's been a slight improvement in the rate of planning applications being determined within the requisite timeframe of 60 statutory days. However, 20%, or 1 in 5, were not, but no explanation for this is given. And then the average number of days for a determination varied from 88 to 129. Are these statutory days or calendar days? Assuming they are statutory days, and the majority of decisions were made within the 60 days, what is happening with the ones that take longer and skew the averages by so much? And what's being done to improve this? Vic Smart applications must be done within 10 days. 73% were, so a quarter, or 1 in 4, are not. This decline in performance is due to a shortage in skilled staff to assess tree-related requests. What's being done about that situation? Will it improve in the short term? And if not, why not? Staying with trees, from figure 3 in the officer's report, I can see that about half of all applications are for tree permits. Figure 8 in the attachment 1 gives us detail about only the number of tree permit applications. What is missing is how many of these were for pruning and how many for tree removal. How many trees, as there can be multiple trees in a single application. And how many of the other permit types also included tree removal. What were the results? How many trees were approved for removal or not? Finally, I draw your attention to the building section and figure 8, page 80 of the agenda papers, which illustrates the risk rating. But there's no description anywhere of what kind of risks. What does this actually mean? What risks are involved and what is being done about it? Is it risk to the officers, to the community? What? And on that graph, a different colour choice would make the graph much easier to understand. The very high risk colour is confusingly similar to the outstanding and outstanding target colours. So please don't accept this report until this further information is available. Thank you.
Thank you, Pippa. I'm not sure if the director would like to make some comments, or would you, if Pippa could provide those questions, if you do question. Thank you, Pippa. The only comment I would make, you talk about the statutory days and the length of time. I always think these buildings will be there for 50 or 60 years. If council takes a bit longer to make sure the applications are correct and that we achieve the best possible outcome, I think waiting a couple of extra days to get that result, I think, is well worth it. And I don't think we should force rush a decision just to meet those requirements. Sorry. There are no other speakers, so I'll look for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Garotti, seconded Councillor McKern. Comment?
Look, I'd appreciate very much if the Speaker could provide those questions to the Acting Director. I did see you jotting them down furiously. Just as a general comment, I've been really impressed actually this evening in particular, just the quality of feedback from the gallery across a whole range of items. I really appreciate it, to be honest, like just asking questions and raising issues that we even as councillors haven't thought of. So I think it shows partnership, really good insight, and I'm very grateful. All I can say is some very good questions raised, like probing into, it's one thing to acknowledge the success, but probing into why a quarter of things are not being delivered on time and the reasons why and how we can do better, particularly when we know the overall volumes are lower. You know, full credit to the Speaker. So CEO, Director, looking forward to some insight on that. We will adopt the report, but we've certainly heard that feedback has prompted my interest, and I'm looking forward to some further analysis coming back in due course. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for the comment. The leader, Councillor McKern.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Speaker for her questions and hope that we can get responses from the officers. It takes time to study these reports and to consider the relevant questions that might change what we're doing for the better. I must admit, I also raised my own questions with our planning officers. I was interested in, for example, our 80% planning application figure and how that compares with like councils. I think it's really important, if you're going to be studying these figures, to be doing the comparisons with like councils. We're not a standalone council. We actually do live in a greater community here. And you'll be interested to know that similar council average is 68.8%. And that is against the like councils of Whitehorse, Darebin, Marybeck, which I would consider like councils. I also thought it was interesting that there were only 26% of council decisions set aside by VCAT in the 6 monthly term, as opposed to 41% in the previous 6 months. That's a really good result, and that's something we need to be celebrating. Planning is a very complex field, as you'll appreciate. And one of the frustrations our residents have, our council officers have, we have as councillors, is that we often, our refusals are set aside. And I did question the staff on that. The planning team has continued to advocate on behalf of council when matters are referred to review at VCAT. So some really good advocacy happening on behalf of our council officers. I've run out of time. I was actually hoping to move this motion because there are a number of other questions and answers that I've received from the, yes, I've heard it, that I wanted to share with our community. So I'm happy to share those responses to queries regarding tree removals, regarding improvement in electric developments and new developments, what is behind that, and happy to discuss these responses to queries I raised for anyone who wants to stay after tonight's meeting.
Thank you very much. Are there any further comments? Councillor Costello.
I think there was a lot of emails shooting around after seeing this report. There's a lot to bury into. One of them is the BPI financials. That's one department of council that has worrying trends that we need to look at and see opportunities there. But also the multi-dwelling development decreased in the review period by approximately 71 to 54, lowest 6th month since 2017. So we're in a housing catastrophe potentially lining up if we continue to increase population and have decreasing dwellings available for people. There's only one outcome. So that's a real flag to me that something's not going right, and we really need to be addressing that because it's very hard to resolve once we land in that situation. But look, there's a lot to be discussed with this, and there's a number of CRMs in the background going off to offices for myself as well to try and understand what's going on.
Thank you. Any further comments? I'll just make a few comments myself, because I can. I think this report actually highlights the good work of staff that have improved their processes, made decisions, improved their performance in meeting the deadlines for the applications, also the tree removal request, the education and the processes that go through to help people when in those situations. I think the staff have done an extremely good job there. So I think this report just does highlight how well our staff are working to make sure this whole division meets the requirements of people to get their permits processed correctly. But as Councillor McKern pointed out, once we've made that decision and those appeals have made, we've massively improved our success rate in defending our decisions, which goes well for this council. So I'd like to thank the staff for their efforts in making sure that these processes are smoother, but also we come to the right decision in a reasonable time. If it takes a bit longer, so be it, but in a reasonable time, and then we're successfully able to defend those decisions on appeal at VCAT. So I think shows a very well-performing section of staff, and I understand Councillor Castaldo's comments, but there is so much more to the planning division than planning applications, and I think that's what we're looking at, the income. There is so much more that this department does that really benefits this Banyule Council and the whole community. So I think a great effort by this team, and Julian, if you could pass it on to the team, that would be wonderful. So I'll put that, all those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to the adoption of the proposed West Highwell Business Park Master Plan. There are no speakers. I'll look for a councillor to move a motion. Move Councillor Castaldo, seconded. Oh, I'll second it. Councillor Castaldo.
This is a very exciting report. If you've had the opportunity to have a look at this, this is our second largest job centre after Heidelberg Health Precinct. The Heidelberg West Business Park has tremendous opportunity for our community moving forward to be a jobs generator, a significant one for our broader community. I think this is a very ambitious plan that the Strategic Planning Department have worked long and hard on. It's very ambitious, but I think it's sometimes good to put out a vision of what we would like to see, the opportunities that we could bring to Banyule, and it's a city that I'd like to live near. I think when we're looking at places where we're going to build density and increase economic development opportunities for people, we've got to make sure it's good for our community, not just for some of the new people moving in, but also for the existing. I think this lays out a very good strategic, exciting opportunity. We've had extensive consultation with the community inside the business park and working with the Heidelberg West Business Park Committee. I think it's been a good exercise and one that was really needed, because what we don't want is random development just happening without a very strategic driving it forward. And I think, please, well, if you want to get involved, have a look at that strategy. It's something that I think has a lot to offer a lot of people in our community. I know it's Tom's ward, but I'm really excited about key major infrastructure that is going to set us up for the long-term future. So have a look at this strategy.
Thank you. Further comments? I'll just make a few comments. Here it is in my ward, and amazing little place. You think it's been there, I'm not sure how long, but a very long period of time. And as Councillor Costato said, our second biggest employment area. I think it's 10% of jobs in Banyule are in the West Heidelberg Business Park, which is a significant number. But there's some fantastic businesses that have been there for an incredibly long time. I think about Milestone Chemicals, which has been there about 60 years and a huge local employer all that time, and has resisted all the pressures to import chemicals when continue to manufacture there in a local area. There's Sweet by Nature. There's so many wonderful businesses in there. Chocolatier, like there's some fantastic worldwide businesses that function out of West Heidelberg Business Park that most residents in Banyule aren't aware of. There's Dolphin Plastics that make all the chips for the casinos worldwide. It's an amazing place. Maybe that's not a great example, but no, there's some world-leading industries in that little park. I know there's lots of other businesses are there that have been there for a long time, and this council, I think it's a bit of a shame on this council that it's taken us this long to actually develop a master plan for how we're going to manage that area, because it is such a vital economic component of Banyule's future. And with its situation next to La Trobe University, which is generating a lot more development in eco-science and plant development, there's a real opportunity for businesses to come out of out of La Trobe University and establish there. So I'm very, very happy to see this finally come about, this master plan. It's taken a long time, but we've finally done it, and I'm looking forward to working with other levels of government, because this was part of the Northern Economic Employment Cluster, which has failed to attract attention from state and federal governments to date. And hopefully by developing this master plan, we'll have something to go out there and working with La Trobe to get some more investment into what will be a thriving part of our economy. So happy to support this tonight. I'll put that, all those in favour. Oh, sorry, Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mayor. While I appreciate the exuberant support demonstrated by my colleagues and acknowledge that the draft master plan does indeed present a vision for the development of the Heidelberg West Business Park as an innovation precinct, it also potentially commits this council to purchasing substantial amount of property within the business park to develop 3 innovation/mobility hubs, shown here in bubble sort of detail in the draft master plan. And as I said, while I do appreciate the aspiration for 21st century enterprise in the business park, my concerns are, what is this going to cost council? And also the low level of feedback we've actually received about this draft master plan from the 600 businesses that operate within the business park currently. For me to be comfortable in expressing my support for this draft master plan, I would need to see a costing framework for the implementation of the plan, and a lot more engagement and the results of that engagement with the 600 businesses that operate within the park, given that part of the aim of this is to improve their quality of operations and the livability of the business park as a whole. So tonight I won't be supporting this draft master plan. There's not enough detail, and I'm concerned that it potentially in the long run commits us to a white elephant.
Question from Councillor Garotti.
Yeah, just a question of the appropriate officers, but does this plan in itself commit council to any expenditure?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the adoption of this master plan does not commit you to spending money on particular capital works over the next 30-year horizon of this master plan. There are a number of projects that are funded over the coming years necessarily to deliver improvements in that precinct, and additional works that are identified through this master plan process will enable officers to prepare capital works budgets that are able to implement council's vision for the precinct.
Question, Councillor McKern.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I'd like to ask the Acting Director of City Development, given that this draft master plan was prepared by consultants, what did it cost council?
Through you, Mr Mayor, $120,000 worth of consulting to prepare this master plan.
Thank you. Given that, would the mover like to have a right of reply?
Yeah, just quickly, that a master plan such as this doesn't lock us in to delivering hard infrastructure. There's a bunch of actions in here that would see the delivery of the master plan, but this is a 30-year horizon. It doesn't say specific large capital outlays. I'm comfortable with the adoption of the proposed Heidelberg Business Park. It's not a draft. And I think that this has a very good vision for our community. It's employment opportunities. We talk about working locally. We need to make jobs locally for people so they don't need to travel across the city. This is the second biggest hub after Heidelberg, and I'm committed to making life better for our residents, and that's not having to travel across town to get a job. And I think this is a very good strategy to doing that.
I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. We'll move on to item 8.2, proposed declaration of Montmorency Shopping Village special charge renewal. There are no speakers. Would council like to move, or is there any questions? Council like to move Councillor Champion. Seconded, Councillor Neely. Comment?
Are you sure, Mayor? Look, just really quickly, this is essentially a renewal. The Montmorency Shopping Village has partaken in the special charge scheme for many, many years, and the traders benefit from it significantly. So it's essentially a no-brainer for us to support this. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? I'll put that. All those in favour? That is carried. We'll move on to item 8.3, inclusive local jobs and social enterprise strategy year 4 achievements. There are no speakers. Are there any questions? Look for a councillor to move a motion. Move Councillor Grotti, seconded Councillor Champion. Comment?
Yeah, just a brief comment again to acknowledge the great work being done. I was recently asked a question by a member of the community around what is the thing in the budget that I'm most excited about or proud of. And my response was, in this budget and in every budget, it's the funding that we commit to the Inclusive Jobs program. So I think we've now delivered close to 200 jobs for people with disabilities from disadvantaged backgrounds, giving them their first foot in the door, so to speak, to get a job and to create an opportunity and a life for themselves. And it's been overwhelmingly successful. I don't like to use the word proud, because I think that we like to be modest. I certainly like to be modest about what council does, but I'm certainly, it does make me proud to be a councillor of this council, actually, that we have this program and we do this work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Champion?
Yeah, just really briefly, I do speak on this every year, and one of the most exciting things that we feel in our lives is that we got a job. And for many of us, it's been ongoing, it's standard. We expect to apply for work and we expect to get the job, and we do. And there are those who don't. again and again and again and again. They consistently don't achieve a job that they apply for. So this has been an opportunity for those in our community to acquire skills, knowledge in a particular field, which gives them then the opportunity to either remain with council or move on to another enterprise. And I'd like, again, another human aspect of this council. Not only as a councillor contributing to our community and the value of our people in the community, but also as a parent. And as a parent, both of my boys have achieved work and I am incredibly excited for them. So imagine the parents of the people who obtain jobs through this. So look, I'm not afraid to use the word proud. I am proud of what we can achieve, what we've been able to achieve and will continue to achieve through our local jobs and social enterprise strategies. And we will keep going. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment, Councillor Castaldo?
Yeah, this is a really important program, and I think Councillor Garotti is someone that's worked hard to making sure this is successful as well. There's over 1,000 jobs have been created through this process in the 5-year plan, and it was just the other night we had a graduate event for all those that had just got through the 6 months period in which they were employed by council, and we trained them up. They're people that have had all different barriers to employment. And a girl from a previous year came up from the stairs when she saw a sign up down the bottom telling people where to go. And she told me about her story, that she'd been on council, got through this program, and she was successfully now placed at a job around the corner here. And she was now training other people to do the same job that she was doing, and has elevated her opportunity, or elevated her role in our workforce as a consequence of this. And there's been a number of stories like that that we've heard, and I think it's essential that if local government can't provide jobs to people that are facing barriers to employment, then who will? We need to do this. We're at the front of this, and we've got a committed council to delivering on this area. And I'm really, I'm very supportive of continuing to roll out this program. I'm scared to say the word proud now, but I think this is an important program, and if we don't do it, who will? So I'm very happy to be part of the organisation doing that.
Thank you.
And please visit Chance's Cafe at Possum Hollow, for Change Cafe at Belfield Community Hub, and Whispers Cafe at the library down below. They're 3 tremendous social enterprises that are providing jobs and supporting a lot of people that really do need that support in our community.
Thank you. Further comment? Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that Council's ramped up its engagement with the local employment and support service providers in response to the rising cost of living. The partnerships help boost inclusive employment in our largest employment sectors: healthcare, construction and retail. I'd like to mention also the practical approach that's happened through this program, like the real industry job interviews hosted by the Banyule Nillumbik Local Learning and Employment Network. It's a bit of a mouthful, that one. The Local LEN for short. They helped the secondary students gain real-life interview skills, and you know that was well received, and it's an example of that practical support through this program. Other examples are inclusive hiring practices and inclusive job advertisements. So I will support further funding opportunities to be explored so that Council can provide critical job readiness support to all community members seeking employment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? I'll just make a few comments as well. We've actually produced a template of how this works, and other councils have looked at that template and are planning to implement similar programs. And this council's also run workshops for other local employees on how having inclusive employment strategies and programs actually boosts productivity in a workplace. And we also received an award in Canberra in July, I think it was. We were second in employment programs Australia-wide for this program. And as speakers talked about the awards night, well, the award nights are outside work hours, and it was packed with staff. Not the staff on these programs, but the staff that supported them through these programs. And if you talk to our staff, they talk about how they are more motivated to come to work because they know coming to work is helping someone else, and they are mentors. They work with people they know that have struggled to get employment, and these people appreciate a job so much. They are that grateful to have that opportunity. It gives every other employee that sense of satisfaction and knowing that having a job is a valuable thing and should be cherished. That's what that does, this employment program does for every other member of staff. Every other member of staff appreciates the opportunity that this council has given them. And these people that received the awards that night, it was absolutely unbelievable, the joy, the bond they had within the group, but also the bond they had with other staff members. The Greensborough office was packed with staff that night. I could not believe how many staff members stayed back after work to participate in this and to congratulate these people. So to say this is a massive success is not an understatement. So very proud, and I'll use the word very proud of a council that has run this program, and I just hope it continues. I'll put that, all those in favour? That is carried. Can't believe it. I've come to the end of the program. So notices and notions, there are none. General business. Well, there's Alison Champion, I believe you have a general item of business tonight.
I do, Mayor. Thank you very much. So this last week, I was privileged to be invited again this year to the Viewbank Scouts ARAP. ARAP stands for Annual Reporting and Presentation, not to be confused with accounts receivable and payable. That's something different. All group levels, all scouting group levels presented the activities they participated in. There are about 5 levels. And what they learned in the last 12 months, and they showed how very active and enthusiastic this whole scout group actually is. I was sitting and I was watching and listening and hearing about all their adventures, and I was absolutely exhausted. 2024's ARAP was Group Leader Glenn Crawford's last after 7 years at the helm and 10 years of membership. Scout leaders from all over Melbourne joined in acknowledging Glenn's leadership, which has inspired a larger and improved Viewbank Scout Hall, a significant increase in group members to the point that there is now a waiting list, and both his children, Glenn Jr. and Matilda, receiving Australian Scout and Queen Scout awards respectively. And these are the highest awards in the Scout section. Congratulations also goes to Tracy Nolan, who's the Venturer Leader for achieving the Wood Badge Award, and this was Glenn's last investiture as the group leader. It has been an absolute pleasure working with Glenn and the Viewbank Scouts as both the Hordern Ward Councillor last term and the neighbouring Sherborne Ward Councillor this term. Glenn's contribution to both the scouting movement and the local community has left an indelible impression. Banyule Council thanks him for his work and his passion, and we wish him and his family the very best for their next life chapter. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other items of general business? Councillor Neeling.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 23rd of August, I attended the MAV State Council meeting with our Governance Manager, Kristen Fort, and I've mentioned before, but I'll mention that State Council is our governing body and it's made up of delegates from each of the 79 member councils, and we meet twice a year. As a council, we were putting forward a motion seeking the MAV to write to the Minister for Environment to form a new body that provides the collective procurement, contract services management recommended by the Victorian Auditor General report in relation to our waste, and that this body is funded by the state government waste levy. So that motion was successful with 93% support across all the councils, so there was no debate on that. There wasn't the rest of the 30 motions that were on sustainability, other procurement activities, environment, were all passed. So all 30 motions went through. Kelly Grisby, she presented the recognition of councillors that were there that were not rerunning, and offered congratulations and best wishes to those who are running. So a productive meeting. Not very eventful.
That's no good. Councillor McKern, I believe you have an item as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to thank everyone who was involved in the Community Planting Day at Seddon Reserve in Green Street, Ivanhoe. It was a belated celebration of National Tree Day, which of course was celebrated on the 25th of July, but our staff were busy at other sites on the day. And we managed to plant about 100 Indigenous plants around the reserve, which is quite exciting. And I want to thank in particular the West Ivanhoe Sporting Club, Cameron Harper, and his other members of the club who got on board, brought their shovels, did a lot of planting, and also ran a barbecue for all the volunteers. So it was a good turnout of about 20 volunteers, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same again. There's a lot of enthusiasm for planting at Seddon Reserve. I'm also going to take this opportunity to mention the local laws review, which has a survey on Shaping Banyule at the moment. It closes on the 31st of August. There's two particular items on that that will be of interest, particularly to our environmental cohort in the community, and that is the suggestion of possible security bonds to protect trees on private property during construction on private property. Currently, there are fines for damage or removal, illegal removal of trees on private property during construction when they are removed without a permit. But the fines implemented by, or rather mandated by the Planning and Environment Act are very low, in the order, I think, of about just over $2,000 a tree. And yet a tree might be valued at over 50 to 100,000 or more, and yet those sorts of puny fines exist. That's one. The other is our nature strips, and whether or not we should allow the planting of vegetation other than lawns. I know I've been contacted during this term by numerous residents wanting to create more biodiverse nature strips with planting of varied Indigenous vegetation, and have hit a wall with our current policy. So there's some interesting new proposed local laws, and if you're interested in being involved in commenting on those, if you get onto Shaping Banyule, local laws, a review of local laws, Banyule, you'll be able to contribute to that survey. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other general business items? We'll move on to public questions, and we have several public questions. The first one is from Jane Crone. Welcome, Jane. It's nice to see you.
Didn't know whether it would have been already typed out for me or not, but I have mine here. So, with reference to Banyule Council changing a restrictive covenant on the Glenard estate in 2022 without the knowledge of the other 119 beneficiaries, so they are all the people that have a voting right on these Walter Burley Griffin estates, How many other covenants has the Banyule Council allowed to be varied in Griffin Ward in similar circumstances?
Thank you. There's an officer's response. Julian, would you like to read that out, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. In terms of background to the removal of this particular covenant, state government planning legislation under section 47(2) of the Planning and Environment Act specifically exempts applications to remove that part of a restriction or covenant on land that has been breached for a period of more than 2 years from notification to those beneficiaries of that covenant or restriction. When an application of this nature is lodged, Council is required to follow the statutory processes and not provide notification under either section 55 or 52 of the Planning and Environment Act. In response to the question specifically on the number of occasions this has occurred, officers have approved 3 applications since 2020 to vary a restrictive covenant in the Griffin Ward without notification being provided, including the Glenard Estate, which was approved in 2022.
Thank you. Our next question is Michelle Jarvis. I notice Michelle's still here. Welcome again, Michelle.
Thank you. The Montmorency community is concerned that public access to and through Mayona Reserve has been prevented by cyclone wire fencing since the level crossing removal works were undertaken from early 2021. Now it seems that the presence of the Eltham copper butterfly, found by Monty Local in May 2021, that public access to the reserve will remain closed due to Commonwealth legislation, thereby stopping public access to the reserve. And this has resulted in some community backlash against local volunteers who care for the environment and parklands across Montmorency, as these volunteers are mistakenly blamed and accused of wanting Mayona Reserve closed from the community. My question is, when will Council set the record straight and release the Mayona Reserve Eltham Copper Butterfly Management Plan for public comment and provide regular updates to the residents of Montmorency regarding the management plan, which should include clear reasons for the fencing of Mayona Reserve and the exclusion of public access to it, and why this differs from sites in Nillumbik and Banyule that also have viable Eltham copper butterfly populations. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you. The management plan for Mayona Reserve was developed in direct response to our obligations as a council to protect the habitat of the Eltham copper butterfly on our land. These obligations stem from the Federal Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999, which mandates necessary action to protect threatened species and their habitats. Due to the sensitive nature of the data in the report, which includes specific ecological survey points, protected vegetation and specific ECB habitat, we don't intend to release the report publicly to ensure the ongoing protection of the Eltham copper butterfly. This approach is consistent with common practice to ensure the continued protection of these sensitive habitat areas. Protection measures at Andrew Yandal Reserve include fences and lock gates to prevent public access to sensitive habitat areas. Unlike Mayona Reserve, the larger size of Andrew Yandal Reserve allows for paths to transcend the site between fenced habitat areas, with some unfenced areas where the ECP is not present. Due to the relatively small size of Mayona Reserve and the specific site constraints, it's not feasible to provide a public access path and fully meet our obligations under the EPBC Act. Leaflets were distributed to nearby residents in late July, early August, advising them of the project, the fencing and the expected timelines. Interpretive signage will be installed at the site when the existing fencing is replaced with new fencing in early September, subject to Metro Trains Melbourne also commencing their fencing works.
Thank you very much. Our next question, the person is not here, and it's anonymous anyway. Our next one is Wendy Pallister, but I haven't seen Wendy tonight either.
No, she's here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there you are, Wendy. Oh. So, welcome.
So good evening, councillors, Mayor, CEO. So my name's Wendy Palliser, volunteer for James Reserve, advocate for Heidelberg Heights to protect the ridgeline, the wildlife corridor, the 1 and 2 story character homes in the area, and the park, James Reserve, where zoning around the parks is crucial to ensure the development adjacent to near the park is compatible with its recreational or green space purposes. So given the Victorian Planning Panel at present deliberating on the recommendations to Council in the C172 referring to Heidelberg Heights, the area I've just mentioned, which could affect Council's own housing strategy, what was the urgency in passing the housing strategy and neighbourhood character strategy for the next 10 to 15 years on the 5th of August this year? Thank you.
Thank you. Julian, would you like to respond on?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. The recently adopted housing strategy and neighbourhood character strategy were both actions identified in the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. The preparation of the Heidelberg Structure Plan and Planning Scheme Amendment C172 has aligned with the broader strategic objectives outlined in both of those strategies. The C712 Planning Panel has also reviewed the housing strategy and background documents that supported that document, including capacity assessments for population and housing growth, to ensure that Banyul's responsibility to provide diverse housing in appropriate locations such as the Heidelberg Activity Centre, as required by state planning policy and in the Victorian Government's housing statement, to be met.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next speaker is also not here, and number 6 is not here either. Our next person has finally turned up. Welcome, Alicia.
Thanks, Mayor. I had sent an email earlier to the governance team. I'm sorry if that didn't make it to you, so I'm apology because I really, you must have missed me. I normally speak each meeting a couple of times, so apologies. My question for tonight is, in the last rubbish or recycle collection, Council's truck leaked significant oil around the streets of Rosanna. And given the topography, this oil will end up in Salt Creek, even though Council laid down sawdust in just one street, which I believe was in response to a resident inquiry to Council. So what actions has Council taken to mitigate impacts of this pollution in Salt Creek, and have the bin collection drivers identify and act before it becomes a problem in future collections? And I'll just add, I suspect it's not the truck itself, that it was actually something that the truck had picked up along the way, but it wasn't identified, and it was over numerous streets. I had to walk around and identified many, many streets where the oil was laid down on the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Darren, you have a response, thanks.
I do have a response, and actually it was a hydraulic oil leak in one of the that occurred, which was a very unusual occurrence in terms of the limited due to several locations and a maximum of 75 centimetres diameter in some areas. The oil didn't pool or become a running stream, and soaker material was placed on each patch throughout the area. Waste collection drivers complete a pre-start check before operating their vehicle, in addition to regular service and maintenance. To avoid a similar issue occurring again, drivers have been reminded of the need to vigilance during the pre-start checks and while completing curbside collections on the runs. Banyul Council's Environmental Operations Coordinators reviewed the incident and the response, which was considered adequate.
Thank you, Alicia. Well, that completes the council meeting. The next meeting will be on the 16th of September. In accordance with section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act, the meeting will now be closed to members of the public to consider two confidential items, those being potential strategic property acquisition and the outcome of the CEO Employment Matters Committee meeting held on the 12th of August. Can I have a councillor move that we close the meeting? Move Councillor Garotti, seconded Councillor Neely. All those in favour? That is carried. The next, as I said, the next council meeting will be on the 16th of September. I now close it, and thank you very much for your attendance tonight. It was a very productive and well informed. I miss the good old days where it was a bit of a blue, but thank you for your input, everyone, tonight, and thanks for coming.